How's it going? The Toronto Raptors lose 136 to 125. It's going to be a sad, sad dinner tomorrow night for the Toronto Raptors, who were winners of three straight. But unfortunately, sometimes you just bump into a team that's just better than you. And, the Raptors are going to do that a lot this season. They're probably going to do that on Friday as well against the Golden State Warriors, who are in town. But you thought maybe, just maybe, this team had a shot because ultimately, you do have you're riding some momentum. The Mavericks, winners of a lot of games, have dropped two straight. So you're thinking, hey, maybe it's possible that the Toronto Raptors do get, I don't know, something going at home, feeling good about themselves. And in the first half, it looked like that. It looked like, maybe this is going to be a really competitive game that's going to go down to the wire. And of course, the Mavericks having played last night, thought maybe, the Raptors would just win on dead legs. But unfortunately, the third quarter happened and the Toronto Raptors did not recover from that. They played them very, very competitively. Fitman Cam saying Brown trending on Twitter and it's not good. I have not checked Twitter. I don't think I posted on Twitter today, but yeah, I don't there's a lot of stuff to clean up for the Raptors here, but overall it's positive. I'm not going to sit here and blast. How are you guys feeling about the new YouTube chat interface? Also don't know about that. That's interesting. The minutes were off by Darko tonight. I'm curious, what do you think taking Scottie out at the 6-minute mark of the third was bad? Yeah, the collapse definitely happened right then and there, and he just had to sit on the bench and watch. But I think, this game kind of came down to how you manage Luka right now. Jadon saying how you feel about Scottie tonight. His shot has completely disappeared. Complicated thoughts about Scottie Barnes. Obviously, he had. I'm less concerned about his shot sort of disappearing over the last 2 months since the Pascal trade. I'm a little bit more concerned tonight about some of his defensive attention to detail. But let's talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up and let's look at what happened during this game because honestly, it started out really promising. I think the Raptors were running it down their throat. The defense was kind of concerning right off the bat, right? Like, don't think they were playing excessively well. The Mavericks get 36 points in the first quarter, 30 in the second, 40 in the third. I mean, this is not the recipe for a Raptors win, right? But unfortunately, they have two offensive players that are more talented than, at least offensively, they're more talented than your best offensive player. And I think tonight it just came down to a battle of guns, and they had bigger ones, right? We had no answer for Irving. Yeah, like Kyrie Irving goes off in the third quarter, and some of his shot making, handle, dribble manipulation, the way he's able to just suck in two defenders and almost be in two places at once is really impressive. He goes off for 29 points. The streak of Kyrie and Luka scoring 25 in each game, it's going off. But I think for the Raptors tonight, it was guys like PJ Washington getting 23, the new acquisition from Charlotte, really settling in. Tim Hardaway coming off the bench with 16 points. Not an efficient night, but he hits 4 threes. Daniel Gafford going 6 for 7. Derek Lively just being a beast inside. 5 blocks. I mean, is it just me or did he get away with a lot of goaltending, right? Like Christopher Chu saying Kyrie has the best handles. Hell yes, he does, right? He's a really, really talented player. Yeah, it's usually not a good sign when you start with the opposing team. For Scottie, I was saying, in the first quarter, he's on triple-double watch, right? He had 19 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 offensive rebounds. A lot of those just kind of going after his own miss. Abdel saying Bruce Brown gets paid $22 million. Yeah, chalk that up into life's not fair. Yeah, okay, look, so let's talk about the positives tonight for the Raptors, right? Positive number 1, Jakob Poeltl. Good-ish game. Good game for him. Really happy that ankle tweak was not as serious as we thought it might have been because tonight they needed him, and I think he played reasonably well. 4 steals, 2 blocks, 16 points. He's been really good defensively lately. So, yeah, I think he's been very helpful. Gary Trent Jr. has not been. We're going to leave him for later. RJ Barrett, I thought he was great. He's great. 26 points. got to the line a lot. Just unfortunately, sometimes it just comes down to makes and misses. I mean, the Raptors were, it's disingenuous to say they were really in this game, given the level of shot quality, like shot making on the other team. It's disingenuous to say they were in this game in the fourth quarter just because the score was kind of close. But yeah, I mean, making some free throws would help, and going 4 for 9 and Scottie going 1 for 3 and 0 for 5 from 3. Sometimes it's just that Scottie goes 1 for 5, Scottie goes 2 for 3, and RJ goes 6 for 9 from free throw line. And suddenly you're in a 3-point game or a 2-point game. So it's just that sometimes, like you're getting to the line, you're doing the right things. For RJ Barrett, despite sometimes getting tunnel vision or whatever, I thought he was very assertive tonight. And, he hit his threes. He hit 4 for 6 from 3. And, I think Scottie was doing great stuff as a playmaker tonight. Emmanuel Quickley was really strong. Just another game where he gets up over that target of 10 threes. He gets 11 threes up, makes 5 of them. And I just like how much better he's getting. Again, it's a continued trend over the last 4 games since the All-Star game where he's just getting deeper and deeper into the paint on his finishes. And I think it's been good. I do think that play where everyone was oohing and eyeing was a travel, but they don't call it. So c'est la vie, Luka travels all the time. They don't call that. Grady Dick, hot start, man. He came on like gangbusters, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a Grady heater game. Kind of cooled off. Ochai Agbaji, he's been having some really, really positive games the last few games. Tonight was more of a, dud, 0 points, 8 minutes. Kelly Olynyk was pretty good, man. He has not been shooting threes. Arham saying, hey, Rob, I think you should stop tweeting in the middle of the game. You're a Hall of Fame jinx at this point. I think it's you who is the problem. What did I tweet during the game? I didn't say this was going to be a win. I don't understand that comment at all. Yeah. Kelly Olynyk has not been shooting the ball well for the Raptors so far, but he is always going to provide considerable amount of spacing for this team, and I think that's a good thing. And tonight he does go 1 for 2 from 3. It's never really been a high volume 3-point shooter, so that's not really his game. But just providing that threat of spacing does allow for easier driving angles. I thought he and Jakob, just being bigger guys who can kind of operate from above, like higher up on the floor, can sometimes find the defense sleeping and can find advantages like corner shooters or Scottie with a mismatch in the post. I do appreciate the fact that even though Scottie's not shooting the ball exceptionally well, that he is still continuing to be assertive offensively, right? Like tonight, I think I lost count of the number of open shots he created for teammates, or, just great transition opportunities where he made the right pass, but the next pass wasn't accurate or whatever. So yeah, I think that in a nutshell kind of covers the elements of this game. We'll talk about Scottie a little bit and just what I see from that. But to look at the team stats for a second, yeah, the Toronto Raptors outshoot the Mavericks from 3, 37% versus 34%. They do, however, suffer at the line a little bit despite getting a ton of opportunities. It's really hard to imagine how you lost this game because you took more shots than your opponent. You technically, you shot better from 3. They just shot way better from inside the paint. And I think therein lies the fact that the first problem is Luka and Kyrie are just really hard to stop, especially when they're together, especially when they're both clicking. The second thing is they had guys like, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford just basically shoot perfect from the field, right? So it's really hard, right? Like Luka, you're trying to shade a double on him. You're trying to get the ball out of his hands. You're trying to send traps his way, and he's just picking you apart by guys just going down the middle and getting open dunks. So it's a really hard player to stop. And even if the Raptors did have the personnel to make it, they made life difficult for him in the first half. I felt in the second half that his playmaking just kind of came alive. I think the Mavericks shooters just sort of spread it out too much, and ultimately, momentum started to slip. And I think you could definitely point some fingers at Darko Rajakovic today for his overall game plan, but you're also playing a team that is vastly more talented than you. I just think that's fair to say. That now, herein lies, sort of the point. You're younger than this team by a lot, right? They're two guys, like their two main guys, have a lot in common with your two main guys. I mean, your two main guys are a point forward and a combo shooting guard who is a point guard. That's basically Kyrie and IQ, Scottie and Luka, right? Luka being 2-3 years older than Scottie, Kyrie being way, way more advanced. And sure, no one is saying that Scottie is going to be better than Luka or that, Emmanuel Quickley is ever going to touch anything close to Kyrie Irving. But the play type is there, right? In terms of a guy who takes above the break threes, handles the ball a lot, shoots, kind of quick, whatever. Yeah, you could say if you swap those two guys on those two respective teams, like if Kyrie and Luka dressed up for the Raptors tonight, this would have been a blowout, right? For the other team. So that's the gap. That's the gap. That's the gap between having guys who are like 1A, Hall of Fame bound type of talents in their prime versus having guys who have the potential to maybe be that at some point, right? I think it's interesting, like the load that Scottie is carrying on offense, right? So his efficiency is down considerably, since the Pascal trade. I think earlier in the season, he was trending closer to 47, 48% true shooting. And suddenly it's like, it's going down. Like it's going down fast, but it's not cratering. It's not abysmal. He's not putting up like 2 for 14 nights and 2 for 18 nights, right? It's still respectable. It's just not superstar stuff. But there's more than efficiency when it comes to, talking about superstars, right? There's load, there's creation, there's shot volume, there's shot quality, there's assist quality, there's, minutes, there's defensive attention. Ultimately, Scottie Barnes is just getting defensive attention that he was not used to. Teams are running him off the line a little bit. They're guarding him a little bit better. His shot has gone cold, and that's really not helping the situation, right? RH77 saying, can the Raptors still make the play-in? Just got a little bit more complicated given the fact that the Chicago Bulls just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in double overtime. That kind of sucks because the way that game was going, like 4 minutes to go, it looked like Cleveland was going to win, no doubt. The Indiana Pacers, another team that you might be looking to catch, they also win tonight. And by the way, the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that you might be looking to catch going to the bottom, they lose tonight. So, yikes. Christopher Chu, why is Barnes' efficiency going down? Yeah, I mean, so it's a multitude of things. Number one, it's cold shooting, right? Like you can say as an evolving shooter, your mechanics are never as permanent as, someone who is like more of a natural shooter. So maybe some of the work that he did this summer is kind of bumping off as legs get more tired, more defensive attention, whatever. Plus shooting variance is a thing, whatever. It can definitely be the case. There's also like a greater load of ball handling duties since Dennis Schroder has been moved. Pascal's been moved. He's just getting defensive attention. And yeah, I mean, you could say he was never really as good as a 40% three-point shooter. You can also say he's definitely not as bad as a 20% three-point shooter. And that the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle of around 33 to 34%. But you got to look at this optimistically from the future point of view, right? Future point of view is such. A big playmaker who can handle, 27, 28% usage on a night-to-night basis while still being highly impactful, which he has been. The last 3 games, I think he's been right around 5 boxes minus, and he's getting all the defensive attention, right? You can say what you want about RJ Barrett playing, not playing, whatever. It hasn't mattered. To some extent, like to all extents, he is the guy on the scouting report. He's the guy they're sending doubles teams to. I think in the last game, they were doubling him on the catch. You know what I mean? So his playmaking is going to have to be sharper because those doubles are coming sooner. They're coming more aggressively. There's less help around him. I don't think anyone is arguing that RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley are more talented than OG Anunoby or better players than OG Anunoby and, Pascal Siakam and Dennis Schroder. Like you basically gave Dennis Schroder away for nothing. And in a sense, you also gave Pascal Siakam away for nothing. This was at best a 42-win team starting the season that just wasn't clicking. And now, you've given up 2 of your 5 to 6 best players. You've given up 3 of your 5 to 6 best players. And I don't think you've gotten 3 of your 5 to 6 best players back. I mean, you can make a case that Kelly Olynyk's a pretty good player. Yeah, you can make a case that Grady Dick is playing a hell of a lot better, and he is, for sure. I think the overall offensive system is clicking much better. I think RJ Barrett has been surprisingly good. I think Emmanuel Quickley has been crazy good the last few games. But just Bruce Brown turning into an absolute zilch guy, like that was not in that wasn't on my bingo card. I don't know if it was on your bingo card, but that was not on my bingo card. And I have no idea what the hell you do with this guy at this point other than dump him for salary, like this offseason, because he's been like really bad. The other person who was really, really bad today was Trent Jr. Look, when you're less talented than the other team, you really don't have a margin for error to make two things. Like, number one, you definitely can't not play hard. I think the Raptors played hard tonight. I don't think they necessarily executed very well offensively and defensively, but I think they played hard. Like, they ran hard. They tried to crash hard. Okay, there were a couple times where I was like, there's some loose balls that are getting away from them, and it feels like the Mavericks are sort of out hustling them. But I think too often for the Raptors, it comes down to shot making leading to defensive attention. So, to some extent, you're seeing like, 2-3 misses in a row, and then suddenly you're compounding that by also not getting back on defense, also not rotating out, also not covering to the corner shooter, also closing out. Kind of stupid. I think the refs were a little bit uneven today. I don't want to get tired of just blaming the refs, but there were a couple of, I think goaltending calls that they didn't call. There's a couple of fouls they didn't call. Like Scottie getting hacked and they didn't call it. And then there was one continuation play, if I recall correctly, that I felt like should have been called continuation, but it wasn't. So I don't know, like RJ Barrett going up, like he was clearly going up on that fast break. I mean, he gets hacked on his way up. It was an upward motion, and they don't call it free throws. Now, you could look at his free throw percentage and say maybe that's for the best. He shot 4 for 9. Maybe you generate something better out of that. But I think offensive execution was weak. But you definitely cannot lose advantages. And there's no player on this team really that loses advantages quite like Trent Jr. Look, man, I watched this guy run a lot of fast breaks in my life. I've watched him as a receiver on a fast break. I've watched him as an initiator on a fast break. I've seen him as a spacer or a prober on a fast break. He just doesn't do well in that situation. And I think that's going to be a very, very big reason, and a big, reason that the Raptors probably will not bring him back, because you need, like, Emmanuel Quickley is okay in transition. I think Scottie and, I think Scottie and RJ are excellent in transition. Like these guys really find a way to take an advantage and build an advantage, right? Trent Jr. loses any advantage the second he touches the ball. Yeah. Nameless saying, I thought the Raptors played great considering it was an off night, top to bottom, and Luke and Kyrie had to play perfect to beat us. Damn near 70 points combined. Bro, that's basically what they do on a night-to-night basis, right? Also, they scored 59 points. Where did you get 70 points combined? Cobe saying Grady was hot in the beginning and Darker subbed him off the right or the wrong time, ruining his momentum. Yeah, I already said I don't think this was the greatest Darko game for me, but yeah. Again, like, this is an older team. It's a better team, and I'm more or less like optimistic about what will be done, what could be there for Scottie once he becomes a better manipulator of the defense, right? Some of the and gets some better finishing talent around him, right? Because we're already seeing, like, him finding corner shooters like Emmanuel Quickley, who is a vast upgrade over someone like Dennis Schroder, and you're seeing those assist numbers climb. So, okay, let's say, instead of Bruce Brown fumbling every single layup, you get like an elite paint finisher, like, like guys like Luka has around him, right? Like Derek Lively goes 4 for 4, Daniel Gafford 6 for 7. Like, these are guys that shoot high 60s, 70s, right? So, it's not all like Jakob Poeltl. I'm also curious what Scottie would do with a lob target, like a lob threat, like a guy who can really run the court like a gazelle. Like, we've seen all sorts of like positive synergy between him and Chris Boucher in years past. And it's been like since his rookie season, he's always had like this great clicky chemistry with Chris Boucher. And so I'm curious, to find like what would happen with a perfected version of Chris Boucher who can set screens in like the pick and roll. Also, what will happen when Scottie's shot comes back and some of those coverages have to start a little bit higher? Because right now, again, your playmaking talent is being somewhat diminished by your shooting talent, right? They do go hand in hand. If teams can play off of you 6-7 feet from three because they're not scared because you're in an extended shooting slump, sorry, it makes it a lot harder for you to find advantages for your teammate, right? So Scottie's getting deeper and deeper into the post and therefore drawing the double that way and then kicking out to a corner shooter. But, earlier in the season, there were different advantages available to him. And I think that that's sort of like the difference between Scottie and Luka right now, where it's like, yeah, they're both big playmakers. They both excellent passers. They both, find great advantages for their teammate. It's just Luka can do it from like 85 different places on the court, whereas Scottie can do it from like 6. And I think that's the difference, right now. But if you project forward, maybe in a couple of years, I'm not saying he's going to be Luka Doncic, but he could be, that level of impact player. And the reason I say that is because he'll always have the advantage of rebounding, defense, etc., to make the bridge of the gap. But yeah, Luka is hella talented. He could sleepwalk to 35 points easy. This is a guy who dropped 70 plus earlier this year. So yeah, you held him to 30 points on less than 50% shooting and 1 for 8 from 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though he had 16 assists, and that's really like how you lost, those 16 assists is how you lost. Maybe, you need to pressure him more. I mean, there's no defense in the world that can pressure this guy into like a boatload of turnovers. There's like, he's very patient. He's very calm. He waits for gaps. You don't get to rush him. He's a really, really strong athlete, so he can just bump you. And yeah, like I just think that Luka just, his handle and his coordination and his skill set and just overall like polish, even though he's never really been a great shooter in the shooting. I think he's shooting pretty well this year. I think all of those things combined, you just start to get a dream version of what Scottie Barnes could be, right? You're so funny. Rob's sticking up for his other countryman, Luka Doncic. That's funny. Fun fact, Luka's dad is Serbian. So yeah, I don't know where all like these pure Slovenian stuff comes from. But anyways, all right, let's bring on Lil John. Lil John, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I thought the Raptors lost the game in the third quarter when Darko decided not to extend Scottie's minutes. Like, that's kind of my only issue with Darko. He doesn't like to extend minutes when he can, when like you could sense the game was getting out of hand, and he kind of let Scottie, play with the bench unit. So he decides to take him out. And that's basically when they made the run. Like tonight, Scottie was, I think, a 3 or something. And
Yeah.
And that's the 10-point difference. It happened right there. Like, so I feel like that's the only thing with Darko. My issue is he doesn't really sense, like, man, maybe I should like break the rotations and let a guy go an extra 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Like, I feel like as a coach, you should be able to do that. Like, I thought Nurse was the complete opposite. Like, he took everything too serious, every game too serious. But I feel like Darko's just the complete opposite. It's like,
I think Darko has his priorities straight. You know what I mean? Like, he's not trying to get anyone hurt. He's not trying to get anyone injured. Like, relatively speaking, touch wood, the Raptors have been pretty healthy throughout most of the year. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, yep.
So yeah, apart from like freak injuries, like, they've been pretty good. And even Otto, who granted didn't play a lot, like was relatively healthy throughout the year. So I look at it as, he's not going to jump at a win. I mean, as much as we would probably like him to and extend the streak, et cetera, et cetera. He's probably not going to jump at, a random Wednesday night game against the Dallas Mavericks in the grander scheme of like what would happen if playing someone 40 minutes a night for 2 straight games would cause an injury. Like, injuries are so disruptive to development. It's insane. You can't practice when you're injured. You have to rehab when you're injured. Then you come back. Then it's like the stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Like this has been the crux of Cade's development, right? So, you prioritize development at all costs, which means that you ride through cold streaks. You ask guys to keep doing the same thing. Maybe tonight it might have been beneficial if Scottie didn't take threes, but he's got to keep taking those threes for his development. And he's got to keep playing with those bench units because I don't think those bench units have a chance without him. What would you rather have done? I mean, he played 39 minutes tonight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that
Like,
was the end though, kind of when the game was out of hand. I think he played the entire fourth.
okay.
You know what I mean?
So,
So it kind
okay,
of
but like if the
evened out.
if the basis of your critique is that he needed to play the minutes that he didn't play, well then wouldn't this slump or run that the Mavericks are going to go on wouldn't have happened when he went on the bench anyway?
Well, yeah. Well, listen, the Raptors are going to lose tonight, regardless of when Scottie did or didn't play. It's just more of the season. Like you remember that Boston game where Scottie gets left at the table. Like I feel like Dark was really conservative, and I wish he was just a little less conservative. That's my only issue with him. But I've been very, very happy with Darko as a coach. I will say I don't really know why Bruce Brown started the fourth quarter. Like why that happened. You can't be giving seniority to role players, right? If the guy sucks, the guy sucks. He doesn't have it that night. He shouldn't play. And I thought, he was by far the worst player on the court.
I agree. I think what'd you think of Gary Trent tonight?
I think he was 3 for 8. He somehow finished as a +8. That's kind of where the plus minus is very
It's
noisy.
misleading.
It's noisy, yeah. Defensively, I mean, I guess his string of lucky, defensive matchups against Trey and Halliburton, it kind of came to an end because, clearly Kyrie doesn't look at him as a defensive player because he was cooking him. But offensively, like
everyone.
I mean, Gary, to me, that first quarter, like when he got he got a rebound and he pushed it, and Scottie was in the middle of the court, and RJ was leaking, and he decided not to make that play, to make that pass.
Yeah.
From there on, I was completely out on Gary all night. Like, you remember that?
I think it's just there's so many players who don't make the obvious pass. Like, Darko was asked post game about, hey, like, Manuel Quickley's finally taking the number of shots you want him to take. What's the next step for him? And he was just like, as a playmaker, like that's clearly like I would like him to become a better playmaker. And it's so true. Like there was a play in transition, couple plays actually. So one. And it was almost exactly the same thing. So one was Emmanuel Quickley drilling up the court. I think it was the second quarter. And he has somebody streaking up, and Scottie's just like, pass.
Yeah,
That pass is like a second late. Then there was another play where Gary's bringing it up, and then RJ Barrett's like wide open. And by the time he makes that pass, like even Alvin Williams called it out. He's like, that was too late.
yeah.
But it's like, bro, it's like 2 seconds too late. This is not like milliseconds we're talking about. We're talking about like actual just understanding, looking up, seeing, playmaking talent. Like he just doesn't see the floor. And I just think that as a somewhat one-dimensional shooter that Gary Trent is, and granted, despite, playing pretty well, he's not a defensive stopper. Like he's not a great defensive player. I would argue he's probably the second or worst, definitely the worst defensive player in the starting lineup for the Raptors. So it's just like an upgrade on this should not be hard, right? And now that you have Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett and Scottie Barnes, I don't even think like his skill set is necessarily as relevant as it was earlier in the season.
It's not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
Grady, literally great. Like I think you might have said before that, like some of the in between shot making that Gary has, that Grady doesn't. You would lean towards Gary being slightly better right now, but
I'll retract that now. Like Grady's a better passer. He's like better transition player.
He's just better, yeah.
He's a better shooter, and I mean, well, I don't know about better shooter, but he's equivalent at the very least as a shooter. And I mean, like that curl that he had Like it was a contested, and he just wet.
Yep, I
So
remember
you're
that.
seeing the vision like day after day with Grady Dick, like where you're just like, holy shit, if this guy puts it together, like he really will be the second best player on this team.
Yep, and
Um,
the inside the arc shot making is coming. Like you can kind of see it. The pin downs and stuff.
oh
They're
my
all
god,
there.
like the progression from month to month with him has been better than any player on this team. Like he has been
Oh yeah,
incredible.
it's like
Like
watching a bird hatch.
yeah, for sure, he's been incredible. Yeah. Any final thoughts, man?
Uh, Not really. I was actually watching a Cavs Bulls game, and it really sucks to see the Bulls be like they're really not that good, but somehow they're almost 500. But Billy Donovan is like really underrated as a coach. Like
Hmm.
it's crazy. I don't know what he
Or
does.
maybe Zach LaVine is very overrated as a player.
Well, two things can be true, but Billy Donovan, what he did with that OKC team when he somehow kept Schroder, on leash. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
I don't know how the Bulls are winning, but I think the Raptors might have missed their chance for the play. Like the 3-game win streak was nice, but somehow it coincided with Atlanta continuing to win, which
Again,
that can't happen. If you're gonna
Trae
gain
Young.
ground, you have to win. Like they should have gained a win, and they didn't. They have actually lost the game or a half game,
Yeah.
and that sucks. And then the Bulls just somehow squeaking out wins by DeRozan just turning into the best player in the fourth
Matt
quarter.
319 saying is Lil Jon Coach Mo's nephew or something. That's hilarious. That's funny.
That's funny.
Okay, well, speaking of the devil, Coach Mo's up next. Anyways, Lil Jon,
Yeah, man. Thanks,
we'll
man.
talk. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Thanks.
All right, Coach Mo, long time no talk. What up?
What's up, man? The past couple of days, I'm just watching the Hawks win, and I knew the Bulls was unrealistic. Like we had to, it's 10 seed or bust, right? So forget the Bulls; they're not even in our stratosphere. They're like close to 500. But it's like
Mhm.
the Hawks are winning. The Nets won the other day, and it's like, yeah, we got the pizza party, and we've made zero ground, even
Right.
though we've given the two teams ahead of us losses in the 3-game win streak. So it's like it's not looking good. We're probably not going to keep our pick. We're probably not going to make the play-in, even though we still can. All things are still in play, but it's not looking good right now. Today's not a day where it's looking good. Shout outs to Trae Young and Zach LaVine. They did us dirty by not being in uniform.
They did. They really did. I mean, it's crazy to say that a team could be better without their best player, but that's the notion of like what happens when you have defensive liabilities who are not the most efficient offensive players, right?
Mhm.
Like it's hard to imagine that the Mavericks would be better without Luka Doncic. It's almost impossible. Like Luka's on a completely different planet. But
Yeah.
guys like Trae and guys like Zach LaVine, especially when you can replicate so many of their skill sets in less defensive liability packages. Like for instance, you can make up some of the shot making with Kobe White and DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic or whatever. For the Hawks, obviously they have DeJounte Murray, right? So it's just like I don't know. Some teams,
Even Darius Garland, who's a major defensive liability. It's just there's more the overlap between him and Mitchell. It's like Mitchell just takes more of a scoring load, and you better the defense. Like it can work. They've been winning, right?
yeah.
It's also a redundancy sometimes.
But Garland's back,
Yeah, he's
isn't
back.
he?
I'm just saying, but while he was gone, they were winning. But you even like Julius Randle when he was playing bad, right? But yeah, I
Right.
just this is shedding a light on like, do you impact winning? Right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's how you should get paid. Do you impact winning? I'd pay OG more than I would pay Trae Young. I want OG on my team before. Now, depending on what your roster looks like, I understand that, but I just value OG more, a player like OG.
Yeah, but if Trae Young ends up going to San Antonio and playing with Victor Wembanyama and a whole bunch of all those young cats, like somehow he gets traded there. And trust me, like the Hawks will look to trade Trae Young this offseason, and
Oh,
the
100%.
Spurs are going to be able to dangle like 2 top 6 picks,
Yeah,
or
but
top 7 picks, whatever.
but the Hawks are not going to get as much as they think they are going to get for like the way.
Regardless, what I'm saying is like, don't you think that the league is going to have a completely different perspective on Trae Young when he's playing with Victor Wembanyama, because a lot of his defensive issues are going to get cleared up that way.
Yeah, and he's no longer going to be the guy, the focus. Like, because right now
he'll
the Hawks are
still
his
be
team.
like the leading shot taker for sure.
Yeah, but he's still
H2K saying Atlanta's not trading Trae Young.
They're trading him, bro.
Say bet.
I know. I bet they would.
I bet they would too.
I'm laughing at the Bulls like the entire time, where the Bulls had these demands for this is what we want for Zach LaVine. It's like, dude, take these fries coupons from McDonald's. That's all you're getting. Nobody wants him.
Yeah, but I mean, like you got to preserve, like, you know, the rumor mill has got to be like, oh, there's some phantom team out there that's willing to offer 3 first-round picks, and I was like,
you're getting a 2-9, Rob. You're getting a 2-9.
Yeah, for sure.
No one's trading you anything. I mean, we thought we tried to push leverage with Siakam. Look what we got.
We got 3 first-round picks and the corpse of Bruce Brown.
Speaking of Bruce Brown, bro, tonight are one of the nights where the Darko haters, they got their pitchforks out tonight, because they're going to look at the box score and they're going to say, wait a minute. We're going young. We're developing, right? Okay, Bruce Brown has been asked for a month and a half.
He only played 20 minutes.
Yeah, he played 21 minutes. But the pitchforks are going to be out because Abaji only played 8. Grady only played 19. If we're gonna suck, it's going to be to youth. That's how we're going to suck.
I think there's different ways to develop guys than simply just giving them unearned minutes. I don't think Ochai Abaji was playing really well.
His 21? Did Bruce Brown earn his 21? I'm just asking.
I think Bruce is kind of like, yeah, I mean, I can agree with you on that, but there's also always competing factors at play. Like, so for instance, with Darko still trying to preserve Bruce's trade value to some extent because he's an asset this offseason. I mean, I don't know. You keep giving the guy chances, kind of like the way you kept giving Dennis chances.
Yeah,
interesting interview with Dennis Schroder on the Raptor show today. Did you catch it?
No, I don't want to hear that guy speak. I don't want to hear his voice. But the fact that he was on it just annoyed me.
That's crazy, man. Like, that guy, like, straight up, like, I was just like, I was so thankful that he was gone when he had that interview. Like, he's just like straight up, just like throwing subliminals about, like, you know what, you know, 4 games into it, that's not what we agreed to, kind of thing, you know, talking about like, that's not what I signed up for. That was the general tone. Like, he speaks in code because that's what low value people, you know, they speak in code. Like, they don't tell you what they're really saying. They don't, I mean, he didn't say, hey, they told me this was going to be my role, and then, you know, by game 4, this thing happened, and then this was my role. First of all, cap. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you dominated. It's just such a. It's bullshit.
That Miami game. That's what they agreed upon.
Yeah, but that Miami game was not 4 games into the season.
Yeah,
he said 4 games into the season, everything changed. That's a lie. I was tracking it. That's not true. Yeah, it didn't change at all. His usage continued to spike. You know, he was given time after time to close games, even when he was having terrible. You know, and it kind of sounds like, I don't want to say kind of sounds like, it definitely sounds like what he's saying is that he was lied to, and you know, he can say all the nice things, you know. It's something. Ironically, it's what Jack Armstrong said not in the post game, during the in-game commentary, and he was talking about it 2 games ago. He said it's everything after the word "but."
Yep.
That's what matters, right? So you can say all the frigging, you know, flowery things, and then say, "But I was lied to," and that was the landing point of what you were trying to say.
But here's the problem with this is what I don't like about the Raptor show. Because if I was the guest speaker if I was the guest hosting for the Raptor show, I'd ask Dennis Schroder. I'd be like, yo, Dennis, how come you haven't been able to stick with the team?
Bro, the funniest.
I bet you he's not going to stick with Brooklyn. He's not going to finish his contract in Brooklyn. Bet you. I bet money. He'll annoy them too.
Dude, you know, this guy just tells himself all the time. It's such a weird thing to hear him say that he wanted to be in Brooklyn because he liked their jerseys. I swear to God, he said it. He said, you know, I always liked their jersey, the black and white. It looks cool. Now my son gets another jersey, and I'm like, bro, keep going at the pace you're going. Your son's gonna have all 30 jerseys. Yeah,
He's never learned from all the weird, awkward, and not so mutual departures from all these teams. He's learned nothing.
I agree.
He's dense.
Yo, like he was asked point blank, why did it not work in Toronto? You guys had all this talent. And he's just like, I don't know. I have no idea. We had all this talent. But in the same breath, he says, I was told, and he toots his own horn saying he's coming off this historic summer where credit is due. He played awesome this summer. That's a different sport. That's a different league. That is FIBA. Ricky Rubio did not come into the season next year after winning, with Spain and be like, okay, I'm a superstar now. This is a different. You're playing different competition. You're totally not going to tell me that an NBA team can't whoop like half the teams out there in terms of international play. The court is different. Everything is different. My God, the rules are different. So, like, what I'm saying is, it's like to be so obtuse as to say, on one hand, I was told that I could basically be the guy I was with the national team. Then on the other hand, say we had so much talent. I don't know what happened. It's like, bro, you happened.
Yeah.
And then he's also talking about like chemistry, buy-in, sacrifice. And it's just like, oh my God, he has the answer. It's like, right. Yeah. It's like, it's right there, bro. Yeah. It's you.
No, he's a walking my player. Like it has to be, he's the star. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's not even, he's like playing 2K and he's the my player and he needs to get his stats and all that. Like everything's about him. This was his one chance to live out his dream. And like a poverty franchise, we may have said some things according to him that no other team, not even the Charlotte Hornets, would have said that. They're like, no, LaMelo Ball's our guy. You help him.
Yeah. I mean, look, like everything is self-promotion with this guy, right? And it's somewhat nauseating, right? So I was, I don't know. There's this, I'm curious if I should say this publicly. It's something that's just been on my mind a little bit, right? And it was grinding my gears a little bit. There's this film festival in Toronto that I find them to be extremely bad, but they present themselves as extremely good. And they're relatively successful because they get money, they get grants, they get submissions, they get a lot of people to submit every year, etc. But I think they're just corrupt from the inside. And I've seen that organization from the inside. And when you see their like promo reel, it's just a whole bunch of filmmakers talking about them being good. They're like, oh, this festival is so great. This festival is so great. And I'm just like, this is gross. Like what the film festival is supposed to be about the films and the filmmakers, not them singing your praises. But that's all this entire thing is. It's just a whole bunch of people saying nice things about the festival. And it just got me thinking. It's just like, that's how, low quality human beings act. We had a speaker once at Penance, and he was supposed to be guiding youth. Like he was supposed to be helping these students. And he spent the first 20 minutes of his presentation to these kids promoting his own work, telling people to check out his links, buy his products. And then he ran out of time. And I wanted to strangle this dude. I really did. Because I was just like, bro, like this was bigger than you. I think there are certain people in this world that just don't seem to understand that the world does not revolve around them, that it's not about them.
Yeah.
See, I know for a fact that Pensari basketball is not whatever it is right now. I know it's not because I'm good at what I do. I think 80% of the success of this channel is because we have created an environment or a community where people like to talk to each other. I swear to God, I look at the chat. Sometimes I'm talking about one thing, y'all talking about something completely different. And that's perfectly fine with me because this is not about me. I've created a space. But this pompous, maniacal shit where someone just walks in and thinks their shit doesn't stink, it drives me crazy. Dennis Schroder is that times a million. And it's just a quality in people that has just never sat right with me because I'm not necessarily very good at self-promotion. It takes a lot of effort for me. It's like, it's easy for me to promote Penance because I'm not Penance, but if I have like, I don't know, if I wrote a book and it's like, this is my book, that would be hard for me. I don't know. This takes extra,
While you were thinking, I was thinking about this because Dennis has all these friends. He says so many things. Oh, my former teammates. These guys are my brothers. My brothers. None of your brothers have ever went to the front office and said, "Yo, keep my boy." None of them. They were like, "Yeah, he can go. Yeah, he can go." But they're my brothers. They're my brothers. That's my guy. That's my guy. Jason Tatum
Yeah.
was like, "Yep, trade him." Yep. Behind closed door, they're like, "Trade him." They all know. It's just it's hilarious to me. Like you're the biggest
Self-awareness is
clown. You're actually the
self-awareness.
biggest clown.
Self-awareness is not everyone's cup of tea, and I realize that it takes a lot for people to see themselves from like the vantage point of somebody else. It's taken me a long time to realize that I'm not the leader that I thought I was. Maybe sometimes I'm not the friend that I thought I was, and these are tough pills to swallow because you talk to yourself every single day and you say, I'm a good friend, I'm a good friend, I'm a good friend. It's very difficult to then listen to someone explain to you the 500 reasons why you're not a good friend. You
Yeah.
might lead a company that's relatively successful, but that doesn't make you a great leader. And you actually have to be open to understanding. This is the problem when you come in and you dictate all the lines of conversation and all the lines of, communication, and you just say, I'm here to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, bro, you are here to do what your teammates need from you. And that's why I think Otto Porter is the counter to get, someone like that.
Mhm.
Because Otto is just basically, he's clay, he's flexible, right? So he comes into a situation and says, okay, you need me to start, I'll start. You need me to, and it's just like, I noticed a lot of this during Penance when we were, like, there was this one director, Giuseppe Garau, and he's from Italy, and he's so lovely. Like, as a person, he's so lovely. First of all, he's made this incredible film. It might be one of the 25 best films I watched all year. It's incredible. But when he won the award for best film, he was just like, oh my God, this is so unexpected. And he meant it. He's like, this is so unexpected. I just want to talk about like the other filmmakers. Like, these are great films that the other people. And you just walked away thinking from that, I want this guy to be successful. He's so humble. He's so honest. He's so sincere. I want this guy to be humble. And it's just like there's another type of person that just walks up and talks about themselves. And you're
Yeah.
just like, fuck that guy. I don't like that guy. Humility is such an interesting quality. And it's just like when it's fake, it's disgusting. But when it's real, it's infectious. And, with Scottie, it's like always the praise is transferred up. With Emmanuel Quickley, it's the phrase, the praise is transferred up. Right? These guys, like that's what I like about Grady Dick too. Like the praise is always transferred. Yeah. Dennis just didn't fit. I'm glad he's gone. I implore the Raptors show to please stop bringing him back, though.
Yeah, it's cringe. It's so cringe. And the two guys I wanted to go out at the trade deadline, I didn't care because I wanted McDaniels, I wanted Brown, and I wanted Dennis gone, but I didn't care about McDaniels per se because I knew he wasn't going to get any minutes. Number one was Dennis. Number two was Bruce Brown. I wanted him gone, mainly because he was playing bad, and we can get something for him, I guess, and it would open up playing time for the younger guys. But it's whatever. We got Bruce Brown. We got to deal with it. But tonight showed we got nothing immediately for like right now for Siakam, and those those chickens came to roost today specifically, getting absolutely nothing for Scottie Barnes right now because Noara he's not playing, and the last time he played, he was
horrible. Scottie Barnes?
No, for Siakam. Sorry, what we got for Siakam was nothing. Noara last he played, he was horrible.
I think like what you've gotten real development reps for Scottie as a number one guy. Number one, number two, you got cap flexibility this summer. You don't have that knife hanging over your head where you have to sign like a 31-year-old or 30-year-old player going into, a contract season. You're not having to deal with that second thing. And again, like as much as, I've been very impressed with Pascal's play in Indiana, and he's been better. He's not worth $50 million. Under no circumstances is he worth $50 million. And he'll be even less so worth $50 million next year, the year after that. He's not even worth it right now. So
it's going to get worse. They're going to be in a weird situation by 2 years into his new deal. By year 2, where Mathurin will be in his development, where Jarris Walker will be in his development. It's like I
think they've timed it out pretty well, actually, because Jarris Walker is going to be a really cheap commodity. Because they do have some draft picks. I mean, they do have some, right? They didn't give all of them away. They have Andrew Demhard. He's probably not going to be like a huge extension guy. what's Neesmith's contract like? Like I'm just saying, like
he's a free agent this summer. He's a free agent. He's expired.
restricted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's restricted. Well, no, this is his second time in free agency because the Suns traded him when his contract was up. Right?
He's a lottery pick, dude. No way. No, this has to be his rookie extension. Hold on, let me look at the.
Maybe he's coming off the
Pacers.
qualifying offer out. I'm not sure.
Let's go look at Pacers contracts for a sec. Yeah, I mean, like shit. If he's a restricted free agent this summer, like I would make a run at Aaron Neesmith for sure. Given that they have these contract.
No, Aaron Neesmith is signed. I thought you meant Jalen Smith.
Okay, so yeah, Neesmith is signed $33 million, 3 years. Shit.
That's the one guy I wanted. That's the one guy I wanted because of his contract, and he kind of fit that 3-and-D type of player who can shoot.
Yeah, he's great. But I mean, like this is the issue with the Raptors in general, right? They have Aaron Neesmith for $11 million a year for 3 years, and I guarantee you that Aaron Neesmith is a better player than Gary Trent Jr. right now, and you got Gary Trent Jr. for 18. So
100%.
That's the issue. You need 2 to 3 Aaron Neesmiths on your team if you don't have a superstar. Right now, I think Scottie's a superstar in the making, but he's not like Luka Doncic right now. He's giving you Scottie's giving you like $40 million, $35 to $40 million of value right now on an $8 million contract. That's a $32 million bridge that he bridges for you every night. That's a gift. Like rookies and sophomores are not supposed to be this good. Whatever. Like guys who are 22 are never supposed to be this good.
Okay, what about RJ? What about RJ? And are we breaking even with his value right now?
Close.
Yeah.
I say he's about 22 to 24, 20 to 22. I don't know. Something like that. He's close. Like he's making what, $23 million? So I mean, that's not that bad. Emmanuel Quickley is a massive steal, right?
Right now on his current deal. Yeah.
On his current deal, he makes like, what was he making? $4 million a year. And he's giving you at least $25 million of value every single night. Shit, man, with all these discounts, you're still losing.
Yeah,
because you got all the overpays, right? You got overpays galore, and you got Gary Trent Jr. 18 million. I mean, look at Grady Dick. I mean, Grady Dick the last 2 weeks, I think he's probably breaking even on his contract, if not exceeding his contract. So I don't know. It might be interesting to just think about like what a player is worth versus what they're actually making.
Today's game also highlighted the deficiencies, like the glaring deficiencies in Scottie's scoring, right?
Or some,
yeah. With the way we're currently constructed as a team, Scottie's going to have to be closer to mid-20s on decent efficiency, at least for us to be competitive. Because right now we have him not being able to make a shot to save his life. We have Bruce Brown not being able to make a shot to save his life. Gary either being on fire or being cold. RJ actually had a decent game tonight. Normally he doesn't shoot well from 3, but today he was 4 of 6.
Mm-hmm.
Quickley and Grady seem to be the only 2 guys on a nightly basis you can trust from 3-point line. Because Kelly shots today was 1 for 2, but Kelly's been struggling. But yeah, right now Scottie, the only thing Scottie right now, it's tough because he can only score at the basket right now. That's it. I mean, he had that one fadeaway, but they're just not going down. Nothing's going down.
Right. So for the Raptors right now, in terms of dead weight contracts, you have $20 million of Spencer Dinwiddie. That's dead weight, straight up dead weight, no value being added, right? Jordan Noara does not really play. So that's $23 million, right? Then you got Jalen McDaniels who doesn't play. Now you're at $28 million.
That might be the biggest dead weight. That might be the most waste right there because it moves over to next year. Right.
You got, but next year becomes an expiring. $28 million there. Then you got Chris Boucher who's not playing. So you got 28, 39.
But he can provide value. They're choosing not to play him. He can actually, he should be playing over, what's his name? Bruce. If you wanted to win. If the objective
so that's $40 million, dude. That's $40 million. Then you add Bruce Brown, who is basically playing like a veteran minimum player right now. Honestly, honest to God, there is a G League player who can outperform him right now. I'm pretty sure that G League player is actually playing on the Raptors. Okay.
What's this floater thing of his? Like,
I don't
know-
know. I don't know what anything is going on with Bruce Brown. Honestly, I liked him before he got to the Toronto Raptors. Now I can't stand him. Like I don't get it. So like, I mean, sum total, we're talking about like what, $65 million of just crap dead weight. Gary Trent Jr. is massively underperforming this contract. I mean, you could say he's a $10 million, $9 million, $8 million a year guy right now.
Yeah,
you really telling me he's better than Quentin Grimes right now? Really?
Nope.
You telling me he's better than, Aaron Nesmith? He's not better than any of these guys.
Nope.
So this is my point. So you got all these guys who are not pulling their weight. Okay, now here's a question, right? If you had to sign Jordan Noara right now as a free agent, what would you pay him?
League minimum.
Okay, minimum. Jalen McDaniels.
Minimum.
Boucher.
All 1 year deals. Boucher, I'd give him 5 years. Sorry,
$5 million a year. Okay,
I'd give him $5 million.
Gary?
I'd give Gary 8. 2 years, $8 million.
Okay, so you got 13 million and 2. Yeah. Okay, and Bruce Brown?
Bruce Brown,
5 to 6.
Yeah,
8?
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so you got 5 million, 8 million. Let's say 8 million. Okay, you got $23 million. So basically, you would pay all of these players. Okay, 20. Okay, hold on. 23 million plus 2 veteran minimums, 24, 25, 26, 27. $27 million. So you pay $27 million for 3 guys who make like almost 70.
Yeah.
That's where you're at right now. This is the problem. Because right now, if you could trade Bruce, Gary, Boucher, McDaniels, Noara and fuck Noara, he doesn't even make a difference. But like those 4 guys, if those 4 guys could be traded for guys who are actually earning that level of money, you're a solid playoff team.
Yeah, for sure.
Like shit. Like what are we talking? Like what does $70 million get you in the NBA? That gets you like friggin', 3 starters. Or
so looking at this cap sheet, what are the chances we strike out in free agency?
Well, what's hitting a home run?
I mean, you saving all this money. Is all this money for the Scottie and IQ extensions? Is that what this save is for?
Scottie's extension doesn't kick in until next
I know,
summer.
But it's like rainy day fund for when it kicks in, because IQ's is going to kick in next year, right?
Right. And quite frankly, I think it's worth noting that Emmanuel Quickley has firmly played himself out of any conversation of $20 million. It's going to be 25 minimum.
That was never going to happen.
Yeah, I said it when he got traded. He's probably going to be more expensive than 25, and I feel like right now he's pretty much earning that.
Listen,
if he can keep this up,
Rob, he's seeing Gary make 18.5.
Yeah, for sure.
He's like, buddy, and he's like, he's going to be like, I see Gary run the fast break, buddy. You're giving me 35.
35 is crazy though.
Gary's making 18.5. And I'm at least twice as better than he is. At least.
Yeah, I don't think contracts work like that.
I know.
But like, I mean, 35 that's like Jamal Murray money. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, Jamal Murray in today's market is more than 35.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's probably going to come closer to 27. I would hope so. He doesn't have like the longest body of work. He's an undersized guard. He has playmaking limitations. He's playing on a losing team. I mean, to be completely honest here, like, are you telling me Jordan Clarkson or Nick Claxton? Sorry, not Nick Claxton. Colin Sexton couldn't put up huge numbers playing in this offense right now? I mean, it's a pretty fast-paced transition offense. A lot of threes being taken. It's not like he's the beacon of efficiency. Like, I mean, he's been fine.
He's pretty efficient. He is.
I mean, he's all right.
Not at the rim, but I'm talking about a high volume 3-point shooter. He's pretty legit. As a high volume 3-point shooter, he's as legit as they come in the high volume 3-point shooting.
I mean, dude, as a Toronto Raptor, he's flashing a negative box plus minus. He's negative 0.7. That is not a $35 million
Yeah.
a year player.
Rob,
Like his
can beggars be choosers?
Sure, when the player is a restricted free agent, yeah, they can. I think it's gonna go over 25 and under
Oh
30.
yeah, he's restricted. Okay, so hypothetically, what do you think the biggest offer would be to acquire his services,
Spurs.
or to try to fuck us? Okay, and then what number would they throw at him?
Honestly, if they're expecting the Raptors to have to think twice, probably like 30, 31. At which point I think like the Raptors just have to cave and
Of course they
get
have to
fucked
cave.
by the Spurs again.
No, this is the Phoenix Suns with DeAndre Ayton situation.
But typically
you have to match. You
but-
have to.
But again, like, I mean, there's so many free agents that are like, I don't want to say so many free agents. There aren't so many free agents, but there are free agents that, if the Spurs, it's tough to make huge offers. And I mean, like the Spurs would have to know that the Raptors are not letting Emmanuel Quickley walk. Okay. Like it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So at this point, if they're going to extend an offer, it's only to fuck over the Raptors, which I don't think that they would do. Why would they do it? The Raptors have a favorable relationship with the Spurs, number one.
Oh my God,
So,
they did that to us after we gave them their pick and Wemby. Oh, come on.
Yeah, that would be sad as hell. But also, teams are reluctant to go after restricted free agents that have no chance of basically getting, largely because unless it's an agent favor. Like if it's an agent favor and, maybe the player is having a tough time negotiating or whatever, they might backload a deal or something, or front load a deal and make it really hard for a team that's facing cap or tax hell. The Raptors are not facing tax hell at all. The Raptors have amped like crazy amounts of money. There's no chance to front load this deal to make the Raptors, feel like, oh my God, we can't match it. And I just don't think and again, if you tender the offer and the Raptors don't match, you're stuck holding like a crazy contract for, Emmanuel Quickley. Is Emmanuel Quickley worth $35 million? Hell no, he's not.
He might be next year. He might be next year.
I don't think so, dude. Like, I mean, he's been really good. Let's not get crazy though. I mean, his playmaking abilities have been very, very poor. His defense has been not good at all. Like really, and I mean it. Like he's a really big part of what's going wrong with this team defensively. So I mean, you're talking about like a shooting guard who's undersized, who's just now starting to figure out how to get to the rim, but his season numbers are not going to look great on that front. And I mean, again, like we like IQ here. A lot of people like him. He's great, but no one is putting him on the same level as guys like Colin Sexton or. Even especially like guys like Tyrese Maxey or Tyrese Halliburton or whatever. So I think 28 will be a very high bar, and the Raptors tend to go for the highest bar possible. So I expect him to sign 28. But if he goes like 30, 32, whatever, that's getting into like some pretty crazy territory for a guy whose playmaking is still a huge question mark.
But I mean, do you trust this front office with contract negotiations?
Never. I never trust them with contract negotiations.
I don't.
But also, I empathize with them when it comes to contract negotiations because I also understand what they're facing, right? But anyways, he's a restricted free agent. It's not an unrestricted free agent. Unrestricted free agent, yes, I fully would expect them to have to level an offer close to 35 to keep him. But restricted free agency, again, teams are reluctant to tie up their dollars because once you tender an offer to, you know how this works. Once you tender an offer, if you're another team, you tender an offer to Emmanuel Quickley, you lose the ability to use that money until the offer is either declined or matched. So basically, the Raptors can just wait out the clock and fuck over the Spurs. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to do anything. And all that while, the Raptors do have the ability to use their cap space. So, I mean, you're doing yourself a great disservice, and it's a game of musical chairs. Free agency runs fast. Like teams are not players are not waiting around for 4 days to wait to see if this Emmanuel Quickley thing is going to work out. So teams are very reluctant unless they have intel or they're doing an agent favor, like to tie up like huge offers on restricted free agents. Like I think it was like the Indiana Pacers made an offer to DeAndre Ayton. And I think it was declined. I think it was matched within like a day. No, it was I think it was matched within 10 minutes of them making that offer, which I found very strange.
Indiana fans celebrated all over the world.
There are Indiana fans around the world. That's news to me.
On that day, there was.
Jeez. Bullet dodged. Holy shit! Like, like, my God, DeAndre Ayton. Like,
Yep.
shit. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna get to the post game stuff. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate
By the
it.
way,
Yeah.
one last thing. It's so interesting how flawed our starting lineup is that on ESPN it says Gary Trent shooting guard, RJ Barrett shooting guard, Quickley shooting guard. Like, we actually don't really have a point guard. We don't have size. It's like we had OG, Pascal, and Scottie, and we're like, yeah, 6'9", and now it's like a center, a versatile wing in Scottie, and then
I
just
actually like the dynamic between those 3 players. I think they play very well off each other. I think it's the other pieces around them that need to be adjusted. I think those 3 can work really well, but I think you need like
the
some
3
more
shooting guards?
shooting.
The 3 shooting guards.
I don't think they're 3 shooting guards
No,
though.
I'm just saying, like, in terms of the way they play, it kind of that's what ESPN has them on. SG, SG, SG in the starting lineup.
I think these positions are irrelevant. Like,
I
I think
know.
you can largely, like, okay, like, look at the Warriors death lineup, right? How many forwards were in that lineup? Like, it was Andre Iguodala forward, Draymond Green forward, Sean Livingston point guard, Steph
But there
Curry
was
point
size.
guard.
There
It
was
was like it was.
size. Besides Steph, the other guys were interchangeable. You know what I mean? They were versatile. I mean,
I feel like
is Gary
RJ,
versatile?
R,
RJ is the only one. The other 2 are not versatile.
yeah, Gary is out. Like, I am quite positive. Like, when Bobby Lister said TBD on him, like, I'm like, it's been D. Like, it's been determined. Like, he's not going anywhere. They tried to trade him. They got offers like 1 second round pick or something like that. So they just decided whatever.
Take it. Sometimes you just take
Second round pick. But I think that also dictates like what is going to be available for him in the future, right?
Oh, you're
I
doing
also
him
think,
dirty.
like, I think it's worth noting Gary moving to the starting lineup pushed Scottie into the front court. I feel like the best parts of the season were with Scottie in the backcourt, right?
Yeah. That's
Because
where the
right
development
now
was.
Scottie is basically a backcourt player. He's just being guarded by front court players, which is actually negating one of his biggest strengths, which is his size, right? So when you play bigger, like, that's something that's just missing, right? Like, you got to look at this. When he was playing effectively, like, he's not the quickest guy, right? So playing against 4s versus playing against 2s is actually greatly in his advantage to play against 2s. When he was playing as a starting shooting guard for this team, which is for the vast majority of the season, he was like the starting 2 next to Dennis Schroder, to the point where Basketball Reference literally upgraded his position or updated his position to shooting guard.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was playing the 2, like, he had the mismatch ability, and it's not like teams could just throw a big on him because you still had OG and Pascal there, and you had Jakob. So you were going to have to guard him with a wing or a guard, or you were going to have to guard one of those guys with a wing or a guard. And you're not guarding Pascal Siakam with a guard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you could, in theory, you probably should, but what I'm saying is now the matchups are far, far more likely that the Raptors will have a big wing or a, forward who's got some flexibility. And teams are not really playing, starting power forwards like Horace Grant anymore. So most of them are like 3-4 hybrids, like Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, guys like that. Those are great matchups for Scottie. Those are terrible matchups for Scottie, actually. What I'm saying on the other end. So having him be more of a backcourt player is, I think, the advantage that was also unlocking some of his shooting, because he was able to shoot over like smaller players, and he was able to see over smaller players. And it's just like playing him at the 4 is just, it makes him undersized because he's like 6'8". You know what I mean? So it takes away his biggest advantage, which was his size and his ability to see over the defense. I have a feeling that if this team really, really if this team wanted to, I think the smarter starting lineup would actually be to put Chris Boucher in the starting lineup, potentially, in place of Gary Trent.
In place of Gary, yeah.
Maybe not Chris Boucher. Hold on. Who would be a better option? See, that's the problem. That player doesn't exist on this roster.
Maybe Obaji.
But Obaji's like 6'4", man.
Yeah,
so
but
it's not like he's chiseled and he's brick shit house, but he's still small. I feel like you need, like, if I could just drop a fantasy player
that's like 6'8", 6'7",
maybe 6'8", 6'9",
yeah,
and a power forward that has some post skill and some shooting skill, that player, and then move Scottie to the 2, now you're huge.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Denny Avdia. Yeah, but like Denny Avdia and Scottie Barnes is just like a weird, clunky fit. There's too much skill overlap there. But maybe like, trying to think here. Who's an ideal player? Power forward who can shoot.
Like we need a 3-and-D big wing. Basically, we need OG.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but yeah.
That
I
would
mean,
solve
if you replaced OG right now in the starting lineup with Gary Trent, this is a
Oh my
playoff
God.
team. This is a playoff team.
Yeah,
This is 100% a playoff team because
Oh
you've got so much size, so much strength, so much versatility. So really, the entire offseason will be about swapping Gary Trent for a player that works and building on some sort of depth at the guard position behind Emmanuel Quickley. Right. So really, that's your entire cap space. That's all you need to accomplish, and this team will be really good. And of course, you need to get these guys better. So, okay, and then of course you have a guy like Grady Dick who can easily make up for a lot of what you would be losing in theory with Gary Trent, anyways. So I think that it works.
I don't think, like we were talking about, that big forward to replace Gary and move RJ to the shooting guard spot, and then have us and then move like Scottie to like the 3 or the 2 or whatever, and then that guy play power forward. That means Grady won't start next year. If RJ is still here, right? He's coming off the bench. He'll be like a 6th man, 7th man.
I mean, Tyler Hero was a 6th man. I don't really care. I care that he gets 25 to 30 minutes a night.
Yeah,
I don't really care if he starts.
With RJ here, there's no. It doesn't matter to me because I think he's going to be at 20 plus minutes per game.
He could easily start over Gary Trent right now, and I think like it would make sense. He gives you a little bit more rebounding and playmaking than Trent. I'm actually surprised they haven't tried it, and I'll be surprised if by the end of the year they don't try it, especially when they decide like we're 100% done on Gary Trent. Like I feel like they might try that, but yeah. Anyways, man, I do need to get to the post game stuff. Yeah. All right, peace, man. Take care. Bye. One of the other reasons that I really, really need to go is because my girlfriend is leaving for a month, and I just heard her close the door, which means she's about to go to bed, and she has a flight at like 6 a.m. tomorrow. So I do want to say bye before I don't get to talk to her for a month.
Luka saying, looks like he's 35 years old, but he's only 25 years old, but he just runs the game at whatever pace he wants to, right?
It's at his pace. It's on his terms. A lot of times, very athletic and quick players, they're trying to do too much. And he's so good at reading the angles, reading the timing. He comes close to the paint. He's playing off of 2 feet. He's using all of those shot fakes, and he gets, 90% of time he makes the right decision. Obviously, I thought that we overall, I don't think we did good enough of protecting the paint tonight. Allowed them way too many offensive rebounds. A couple of plays that we missed a layup, that we missed wide open shots, that led easy points in transition on the other side. We just could not get enough to get over the hump there. First half, especially that second quarter, I thought that we did a better job of moving the ball and playing together. To be honest with you, we had 34 assists tonight, but didn't feel like 34 assists. I didn't really like our ball movement and energy that we had on offensive end as well.
The Lively's really brought something to that team, and when you guys are facing a really good shot blocker or active shot blocker like that, did you like how you were challenging him at the rim, and would there have been options to consider?
Well, players like that, they always have a huge impact on a game. As game progressed, I thought that we made good adjustments in a sense of playing off 2 feet, using more shot fakes, kicking out the ball more out for shots. We adjusted as the game progressed, but definitely he was a big impact, especially in the first half.
Luka just turned 25. Shay's really young. You guys saw Victor here a little while ago putting up crazy numbers. What do you assess of, and you got one on your team, what do you assess of the young players in this league and the next generation coming along?
All of us, we're gonna get older. We're gonna look at this age, and we're gonna be like, amazing. This era of NBA is just amazing. The talent of the players. Like, just think about like if somebody told you 5 years ago that somebody who is 7 feet tall is going to show up in this league and that he's going to be able actually to move and play like point guard and do all of that, be like, are you kidding me? And now we have a player like that in the league. Like, somebody asked me before the game about Luka, what he can get better at. Nothing. The talent level in this league is just amazing, and we're really blessed to live in this area and to be part of NBA this time. We just gotta enjoy it and learn those guys and how we can best continue to develop the whole league.
You mentioned Luka's passing, and it seems like so many of those assists were like there was a lot of they're long passes. Like he's making them from across the floor, from one corner of the half court to the other. Is there really a way to defend that when he's he's got every part of the floor kind of is in his sights?
You can make it really hard. You can make it harder. Like you gotta have very good hand activity. You gotta be looking like for all those windows. One thing that because of his size, he's always making those passes over the defense. So anytime if your hands are down, it's gonna make it very, very easy. So you gotta make it really hard with having high hands. We were able to get a couple of the deflections in that first half, to get a couple of steals. You can just really, really try to make it hard. But the more size you have and the more you can cover the ground there, the better. But I thought that his passes tonight as well, like what he did, he ended up with assists, 16. Yep.
When you look at both halves of the game, you guys came out really strong and even led at the half. But what was the kind of the difference in the second half of the game? Like, where was the breakdown that you see initially?
I thought that we had a couple of breakdowns on defensive end, just not being as aggressive as we need in our coverages, or there were a couple of momentum-changing plays as well. I thought that we created a couple of wide open threes we missed. They were able to run quickly on the other side. Like doesn't look big at that moment. It just gives gives energy, fuels the other team. And same thing is for us when we getting stops, we're able to rebound. That fuels our offense as well. I thought that was the biggest difference there. And with Kyrie and Luka, they had such a poise, like in important moments to make the right plays.
Game that the break came at a good time for a lot of guys. It looks like Emmanuel's one of those guys. What's the biggest difference you've seen in him since you guys got back from the break?
Just more aggressiveness, more pace. Especially those first 3 games, I thought that he had great pace, pushing the ball in transition, bringing the ball faster, making quicker decisions. That's the biggest thing that I'm noticing. And I told our guys, our challenge is going to be now, we got to bounce back from this. Like, we got to learn from this. We're going to have good film to study and then get better from, and we have another great team coming over here in 48 hours, and we gotta bounce back. We gotta get back with our energy and fight and find that niche that we need.
Scottie's three-point shooting was really hot to start the year, but for the last 2 months or so, it's fallen off quite a bit. What do you attribute that to?
He is still a young player that goes through those ups and downs. What I do know is that he's putting a lot of work in, that he's getting all the reps that he needs, and I'm very confident he's going to bounce back very soon.
A couple of weeks ago, you were saying that you wanted Emmanuel Quickley to make upwards of 10 attempts from 3 per night, and he's kind of hitting that now more consistently. So what do you think the next steps are for him to kind of, I guess, continue to progress in the way that you guys want him to?
Playmaking, just finding that fine balance of aggressiveness and looking to score, but also being able to recognize situations when his teammates are open and when he needs to make right plays. Sometimes, a lot of times, he's going to be facing 2 players on the ball, and he needs to be able to find his teammates, find open men.
That's the fastest ankle recovery in the history of ankle recoveries.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those things where just trying to be cautious because it was the same ankle that I recently hurt. Looking back at it, I maybe could have even finished the Pacers game. Like it was more of a tweak. So yeah, but I'm glad we did it that way. We won the game anyway, and that way we're, make sure the ankle's good before I got going again.
As a big man, what does Luka's pace and his patience, how tough is it for you to remain patient when he's there and sort of leading everybody into overhelping? Or is it something else?
I mean, no, I don't think it's necessarily for bigs only. It's like for everybody on the court. Like just like his change of pace is difficult, because even when you know it's coming and like you stick with his pace, like he's very good at his pace. So like then you're playing into his comfort zone, and like it's tough to touch him because he knows how to sell the fouls, how to get the contact, and so you end up in a position where you're kind of playing his game for most of the game instead of being able to kind of force your game or your game plan onto him. So yeah, I think for a lot of this game we were kind of struggling with their style of offense, especially in the half court, and we couldn't really get adjusted to it. So yeah, that hurt us.
It's been 2 months now since IQ and RJ came. Can you feel a difference in the chemistry building now that it's kind of, I guess, settled a little bit?
I always say this, like the chemistry and stuff like that is just a constant process. Like there's not really one day where all of a sudden you have it figured out. Like it's just every day you play together, every day, every rep you get a little bit better. So in the beginning, obviously there's like a bigger growth curve, I want to say, because like you're getting the obvious stuff out the way, and then the more you play together, the more reps you get, the more you work on like the little nuances and stuff like that. So yeah, I think at least for me personally, like I like my chemistry and the way we've been playing, like with both RJ and Quickley. So I'm happy about it.
This might be a lot of the same thing as that, but the starting lineup, I think only 9 games together because of various injuries, but you guys have been playing really well. Even tonight you were practically even with them in the 5-man. When you guys were out there as a 5-man unit, is there something about that group that really works? Is there something that you've noticed that makes things go, or is it just that exactly what you were just talking about?
I mean, I think we've put a lot of effort into building that chemistry very quickly, and I think naturally it's a unit where we have a lot of different ways of being efficient, being able to attack defenses. So obviously kind of Scottie being the head of our snake, but there's nobody really out there that's like, okay, who's super ball dominant, or that the defense can like absolutely focus on, because all 5 guys out there are very much involved and can hurt you at any moment. So I think that's been one of our biggest strengths.
Building that chemistry defensively is also really important, and that starting group has been good defensively overall. I guess, how much more difficult is it to build out that chemistry on the defensive end versus offensively when you're constantly sort of working on the game plan?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's about the same thing. It just depends on what you want to focus on in practice, what you kind of drills you want to run, like what where you're trying to get together the quickest. I think for us, the focus has been on both. We've been doing a lot of defense drills. We've been putting a lot of different sets into our offense, like kind of changing our identity a little bit again. So yeah, we worked on both.
I've also noticed that you just look more comfortable guarding in space. Like if there's a switch and you're stepping out to the guard, it feels like you're much more comfortable now. Is that something like you're actively working on, or just something you've always felt comfortable in?
I mean, it's something I've had to do to a degree throughout my whole career. Like I think the more or the longer you are in the NBA, the more you're able to read players. Like you get to know players more and more. Like you, at some point you've seen a lot of the tricks, and like you're starting to catch on. So yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to do my best out there when I get switched on a guard, like trying to make him take it as tough a shot as possible.
RJ, you've been here now 2 months. Obviously, it's a little bit different because you're coming home than, Emmanuel Quickley. But how have you felt that things have kind of changed since you got here as opposed to now? Like, do you feel a bit more comfortable? Do you feel like things have kind of progressed a little bit? Do you feel like the chemistry of the team is building?
Definitely more comfortable for sure. You know, being able to, you know, have practices, especially the break. You know, we got a couple good practices in that helped a lot. We just, you know, we had a lot of new pieces. Even since I got here, the team is completely different again. So, just trying to, you know, get used to playing with everybody. And, you know, me personally, I know I'm getting comfortable.
How important was that break? I mean, it probably came at a good time for a lot of guys, but for you and IQ specifically, like you were on the road a bunch before you got here, on the road again when you got here. Was that just like a good time to kind of reset and refresh a little bit?
Yeah, it was great. I literally stayed here, you know, just stayed here, got some family time, and you know, make sure I was right and ready to come back.
Are you feeling the difference over the last week or so?
Absolutely.
Darko mentioned Manu in terms of just the ability to make plays. What do you? I mean, like, what were the conversations like when he kind of brought up the idea of?
Yeah, just trying to really look at just his floor game. You know, his playmaking abilities. Obviously, you know, being a lefty, similar, and it was. You know, I felt good about it because, you know, coach said that he really liked Manu growing up, so I guess that was good for me.
He was your favorite player too?
No, Brown was my favorite player.
You get that Manu peripheral.
Yeah, try.
Is he somebody that you've been studying or watching for a while, or is this just like a recent?
I watched him a lot when I was a kid. Yeah, and especially obviously in the finals against Miami. Man, it was good to watch him.
The starting five numbers have been really good coming into this game. Even tonight, when you guys didn't have your best game, as a group, you were something like -2 over a lot of minutes. What works about that group, or why does that group seem to be working so far?
We're very balanced. I think Quick has so much energy, just all the time, running around everywhere, making plays, making shots. Setting everybody up, and then, you know, Scottie just, you know, he's Scottie. He's doing everything out there. Jock's really good. He has his floater. He's dunking. He's getting assists, blocks. He's doing a lot of things too. Gary's a crazy sniper. Anytime you pass the ball to Gary, I think it's going in. And then, you know, myself, I just try to do what I can out there to help the team. So I think, you know, that group together, we play very well off of each other.
You guys have a couple bigs that see the floor really well, and Yak and Kelly. What's it like playing with bigs that can pass the ball?
Man, it opens the game up, you know, completely for us, and especially it encourages more cuts and stuff because you're actually gonna, you know, get a look.
I'm trying to avoid Joe McDaniels. Hang on.
Est-ce que le classement est quelque chose que vous avez comme objectif d'être dans le play-in? Est-ce que vous regardez le classement d'autres équipes pour le moment?
Le play-in est définitivement l'objectif. Alors, ouais, on va continuer toujours et tous les jours pour entrer dans le play-in.
The play-in is definitely an objective for us. We're going to continue playing for the play-in. Let me translate to French. Okay. More cuts and stuff. Great analysis, Rowan. Hoodie Mellow, you're on a bit of a weird mood tonight. Have you just decided, like, I'm just gonna troll tonight? It's kind of weird night to troll, but okay. Let's remove that. Yeah, I am. You know, it's so weird. Like, I thought to myself, okay, Penance is gonna end on Sunday night, and Monday to Friday, I'm just gonna sleep. But it has not been that way at all. I'm just a Vernon Carey fan. No, you're not. Nobody is a Vernon Carey fan. Just stop it, okay? Just stop. Like, this is like, I'm not in the mood for trolling. I'm at a point right now. I'm not sure Vernon Carey's family right now is a Vernon Carey fan, okay? Just stop. Yeah, so I was thinking, like, shit, I'm gonna have some time to sleep. I have not had time to sleep. Instead, I've been trying to update socials and trying to keep, you know, like, all of this stuff going. We're hiring a new team for next year, which is going to be really cool. This is the result of our photo booths. This guy won our best Canadian short. His name's Victor. He's cool dude. Made a really funny film. This is our best feature director. So yeah, so I thought like, okay, like I'm gonna have all this time, and then now it's rolling into potentially a short film that I got to film next week, and damn, like I have no time. I'm running still on like 2-3 hours of sleep every single night, right? And like there's just an entire rollout, and the truth is that I always forget this part. Like as a festival, we always forget this part. We always forget all the shit that you have to do after the festival, because like honestly, there's me. Well, that's funny. It's like the one moment that I don't look completely stupid. Here, anyways.
So this is the most attended.
This guy is so humble.
Incident screening that this film ever had. So in this short festival life, so I'm so honored.
He was awesome. So my point is that I've had no time. I fell asleep during the game for like 2 straight minutes, and I had to like do a shot of coffee just to wake myself up. God damn it, I'm tired, bro.
Buenas tardes.
So,
muchísimas gracias por.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm exhausted, and it's getting like to the point where I don't know how to do what I have to do, because it's just like it's getting away from me a little bit. And the things that I have to do over the next week and a half, I'm just like, dude, like I really wanted to take a break to get myself right, because the house is completely upside down right now. Like everything's upside down right now. And yeah, like I desperately want a break. Like I need one, and I can't take one at all. So it's tough. I don't know like what I'm ranting about, but yeah. Oh, speaking of which, let me make your son's night. Hang on. Where is this? Okay, look at this. There you go. Isn't that hilarious? So this is Jake. I believe his name is Jake, if I remember correctly. And perhaps this photo, his first time on a red carpet, if I recall correctly, will be going on his Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool. Yeah, man, this was a really cool event. I don't know. It's like so interesting because so many people are reaching out to us, like first time ever, like critics, sponsors, etc. And there's so many people who wish that they had gone to the event, missed the event, and now it's just about like creating FOMO, if that makes sense. Like you gotta let people know what they missed out on, right? And in order to do that, you need to post shit. Like you need to yeah, it's tough. What? Yeah. Anyways, for the Raptors perspective, like I expect this to be a pretty bumpy ride the rest of the season, but I see the building blocks for something good. Do you think we should draft Rob Dillingham? He's not going to be available at our pick. I hate to break it to you. It's just not going to happen. He's going top 10 in this draft, and you don't have a top 10 pick. Wouldn't it be the irony of ironies if the Raptors do end up having to trade Bruce Brown plus both their first round picks? They have 2 first round picks, right? No, they don't. They traded one away. So they would have to trade the Detroit second plus the Indiana first plus Bruce Brown, maybe just to move into the top 10. And then maybe they'd have to trade away the Indiana 2026 to move into the top 5 if like some team was just very unenamored. I'm not really sure I see the value of top 5 picks in this draft, unless of course there's like a particular prospect that you're just like, damn, that's great. But it's hard for me to imagine like serious value at 6, 7, 8 in this draft. And I feel like the Raptors probably feel the same way. There are just certain drafts that just don't have strengths at certain positions. You know, there's also the matter of fit. You know, like every team has a way that they want to play. Every team has a particular roster that they want to build around. You have Scottie, you have, Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. That's your core. You know, you might say that's a pretty sad core, but you also have Grady Dick, right? And then once you factor in what those 4 guys can be, the fact that they're all under 25, you could also add Ochai Agbaji to that if, you see some potential in him as a defensive stopper. I really do think, yeah, when you really think about it, like, you could definitely make a case that the Raptors are one fundamental building block away. And that's what top 6 picks are for. They're for those fundamental building blocks. So they're a Brandon Ingram away from being like a really good young team, or a Franz Wagner away from being a really good young team. Basically, the what I'm saying is that piece is unlikely to come to you via the Indiana pick or a second round pick or whatever. You need something bigger to get it, right? So I don't know. Raps are one building block away from being one building block away. No, I really think they're one building block away. I think like that player, like, I'm not sure that player exists in this draft as far as I can see. Maybe there's one guy like that in the top 5. But let's just say hypothetically we flash forward and the Raptors get like the number 1 pick, AJ Debonsa, in the 2026 draft. Damn. Now you're like the best young core in the East. It's that simple. Scottie Barnes, AJ Debonsa, plus Emmanuel Quickley, plus RJ Barrett, plus Grady Dick. Yeah. You don't have a center in that group, and maybe you have to shift a piece around or whatever. Maybe RJ Barrett needs to go out for a big or something. But shit, like now you're cooking. But my point is that prospect that needs to be built up has to be like a top 50 guy, not a top 150 guy. And I don't see a lot of top 50 players given the strength of this league right now. So you're going to have to consolidate. You're going to have to like melt a whole bunch of assets together and pray on your luck that one of those top 50 guys becomes available. Again, you could argue Pascal Siakam was a top 50 guy. Why did we trade him for Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks? Easy. Timeline's wrong. Position's wrong. Play style's wrong. Contract value is wrong. But drafting a young player who has a lot in common with Pascal Siakam would be good. Would be good enough, right? So well, now if that happens, voila. But I don't think that's going to happen. Not yet, anyway. I don't know. I'm inclined to say that those players are really hard to get. Young players who are top 50 players in the league right now are not growing on trees. Seldom do they ever become available. If one does become available, like a Donovan Mitchell or someone of that sort, you have to always factor in and weigh in roster fit, timeline, do they want to be here, etc. So really the Raptors' best bet would be drafting high, in a reasonable draft. And that's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard to do because, you do have a competitive roster you're fielding. You do have veterans like Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl. You do have, guys like Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, etc. It's not Scottie Barnes. It's not going to be easy to bottom out. It's just not. So, yeah, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place where all of the assets you could possibly get or acquire short of a max player are not the type of asset you need to elevate yourself, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. The other avenue to this is that Grady Dick actually is that player who can be a top 50 player, and you have to wait a couple of years. I don't know. I don't know. You're rolling on a lot of wild cards right now. I think IQ and Grady have that sort of potential where they could be the second best guy on a playoff team at some point. It's hard to see right now, but their skill set and progression and whatever, if it continues to trend in the right direction, which I have no doubt that it will, maybe by committee they can do it. And maybe that's what all this cap space and cap flexibility is about. Is that if that one or two of those guys take a step up, then now how do you feel about trading? I don't know, expirings and every pick you can to get that piece that I'm talking about. Because now you have a shot. Now you have an actual shot to do something incredible. I don't know. Maybe. I don't see us having a worse year next year, so I doubt we get a good pick 2025. Yeah, but you're not going to be a contender next year either. So even like a 15th or 16th overall pick could yield. I mean, need I remind you, Alperen Şengün fits the bill of what I'm talking about. He was the 16th overall pick in a relatively strong draft. There are a lot of players who've been picked kind of in that 14, 13, 20 range, like 13 to 20. With the Raptors' excellent track record for drafting, maybe you do draft that player. Don't sleep on Indiana's 2026 first-round pick. Dude, if Jarris Walker turns into being as good as I think he's going to be, and that offense continues to click, and players continue to want to play with Tyrese Halliburton and whatever, I'm not expecting that pick to be a lottery pick. I actually thought that given the adjustment period between, Pascal Siakam, whatever, the scary injury initially that Tyrese Halliburton had, I actually thought that the best chance to get a lottery pick out of Indiana was this year, but who knows? I don't think it's trending that way at all right now. We'll do one final thing, which is we'll look at Tankathon just to get an update on the night. But here we are. Tankathon, Raptors firmly 2 games ahead of Memphis. They are almost certainly going to lose that pick. They are now half a game behind the Brooklyn Nets. Both teams have lost. Okay. Hey, guess what? Fred VanVleet losing. Can the Raptors finish with a better record than the Houston Rockets, who started out pretty red hot and are definitely almost certainly going to end up in the in the lottery and missing the play-in? Right now, you have Golden State and LA. Both teams are desperate. You unfortunately have to face that Golden State team, and they are very desperate. But it's also worth noting that Indiana right now is picking 16th. That's good for the Raptors. We'll go with one very, very, very final caller, which is RJ McLeod. What's going on, man?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's going on?
What's up? I've been catching up on some of your lives, and the conversation you just had sparked this one question I had. I think in an earlier live you said that during the Siakam trade, instead of locking in for Jarris Walker, the Raptors opted to take 3 picks out of a draft they wanted to get out of. Is that so? You're saying that they didn't ask for Walker, they instead doubled down on this draft?
I don't know if Walker was available.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, I'm sure if he was available, they would have taken him because they've obviously done that with Ochai Agbaji, right? Like they've taken money. I think the goal for the Raptors eventually, or certainly like through all their deals, has been to shift or defer cap space related decisions, unless they are pertaining to young players that they really believe in. So they believe in Ochai Agbaji, so they take the cap hit going into next year. They believe in Emmanuel Quickley, so they take the extension. Clearly, they must, to some extent, believe in RJ Barrett, which is why they take on that contract as well, and they must think it's movable and that he can improve. But Bruce Brown, convertible expiring. Kyra Lewis, convertible expiring. Kelly Olynyk, expiring. Like, they've clearly prioritized cap space and flexibility.
Okay. So you think it's just for the extensions, or we don't know yet? I would love Ingram.
Pardon?
I would love Ingram on this team.
How would you get him?
Isn't he a free agent soon?
Brandon Ingram?
Yeah. I've seen some on Twitter.
I don't remember Brandon Ingram's contract. Hold on, let me look it up.
But also, he's there's rumors he might become available in the off season because they might have to choose between him and Zion.
They should choose him.
Who, Ingram or Zion?
They should choose Ingram.
I agree, but I mean Zion has way more upside. So
I mean, does he?
yeah.
I mean, what is upside? Like, I mean, yeah, full max hypothetical upside, yes, but like, what has he done to prove to you that he has any chance of reaching that?
Be dominant in more games than Ingram. But I do think Ingram is a consistently better player.
He plays more. Best ability is availability. He's also not very healthy. Here are the number of games that Brandon Ingram has played over the last 6 years. Okay. This is crazy. 59, 52, 62, 61, 55, 45. This year he's at 53 games played. That's insanity, man. Like, yikes.
Well, you say Ingram or Zion?
That was Ingram. Zion's even worse. Zion is considerably worse. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see a lot of zeros next to Zion. Let me see. How many games has Zion played in his career up until this point? Dude. Okay. Here is Zion's number of games played. 24, 61, 29, 48.
Oh, man.
I mean,
they get fucked over by injuries. I mean, they were the first seed like for a little bit last season.
Well, they're both two pretty injury-prone players.
Yeah.
Now, I understand the concept that Zion is a better player. Zion is a better player, for sure. He's a more impactful player. Fine. But he's not, like, trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like, this season is considerably worse than his previous 2 seasons where he was an all-star. You do not want to see a guy who is 23 years old regressing after, like, and it's visibly obvious that he's regressing. He's regressed across the board, literally at everything except for passing. He's worse. He's a worse rebounder. His true shooting percentage is down. PER is down. Box plus minus is down. Defense is somehow even worse than it was last year. It wasn't that great to begin with. His explosive burst is not great this year either. Like, he feels. I mean, he's still like a very good player. Don't get me wrong. Like, he would be instantly like the Raptors' best or second best player for sure. But from a talent perspective, but in terms of like, do I want to commit to that long-term contract given his bill of health and given his questionable leadership or lack thereof? I don't think so. I'm not seeing a huge upside. So in that sense, like, if some team out there did see huge upside, then I'll be willing to jettison him off for sure.
Right.
And by the way,
where do the Pels go from there? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say thank you to the super chat here. Have a good evening, Rob and chat. Tough outing tonight, but we're fine. I tend to agree. We are fine. Not if you thought we were going to run the table in the entire league, you might have been dreaming. The schedule does soften up to some extent. There's a game against Charlotte coming up. There's some easier games coming up for the Raptors too. I don't think Golden State is going to be super easy. Clay coming off the bench has been like a pretty good magic bullet for that team, but yeah,
I think that's a winnable game. I think Curry's been kind of inconsistent, but they did put Draymond at center, so I don't know.
I don't know. It'll be good. The Raptors did beat the Warriors the last time they played them.
Oh, yeah, that was with Siakam. See, we had Siakam.
Was Siakam the reason that game was a win for
No,
the
but he was a
Raptors,
contributor.
or was it? I mean, he was a contributor, but okay. So now you have Bruce Brown.
How did that turn out?
Oh God, it's like I'm only laughing because it's better than crying. Man, Bruce Brown needs to fucking get out of this funk that he's in, man. Like, I've watched him play the Nets. I've watched him play with the Pacers. I watched him play with the Nuggets. I've never seen him play this bad in my life.
He looks disinterested. I don't know. He's just not like chucking whatever floater up. He's not trying as hard on defense as he can.
He wasn't that great of a defender to begin with. I mean,
I disagree.
You think he was a great defender?
Great might be an overstatement, but he had moments where he was great. Like, he was good. Not this. He's below, like slightly below average right now.
Fair enough. I mean, his statistical regression just over the course of a few years has been like insanity. We'll probably look it up right now. Bruce Brown. Hold on, pull this up. So share screen. So in terms of, holy shit, man, I'm scared to look. Advanced game log. Let's see here. So his advanced game log. I mean, this is just straight dog shit. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, look at, holy shit. Like, Houston, like in terms of boxes finest, Houston, negative 11.5. Against Cleveland, negative 18.4. Over the last, like, 7 games, he has been positive boxes minus in exactly one game in which he played 31 minutes. So that's like, I mean, it's interesting because it kind of tracks his two most positive games. He played 31 minutes, and that was Hawks and Spurs. But his bad games, and I'm pretty sure tonight's going to be right up there with all of them. Like, he has been really bad. And it's interesting, people that say, like, oh my God, Darko just gives him unearned opportunities. Dude, like, he's playing 16 to 18 to 20 minutes. Tonight he played under 20 minutes, or he played 21 minutes.
He's also a proven player.
Hmm?
He's also a proven player, a proven rotation player. So I don't think it's like his minutes are unearned. Like, based on his rep, you would give him minutes over Jordan Noara.
Dude, Noara was a rotation piece, and he's a younger player, and he's played better for you.
But, like, in 2 games. And that was the one game he dropped 25, and then...
But, okay, opportunity earned versus opportunity, given. Like, what are we talking about here? Jordan Noara has played, like, a grand total of, like, 100 minutes for the Raptors to date, and I refuse to say that he has been significantly worse in any way than Bruce Brown. Like, he's a bigger asset. Fine, let's call it what it is. Maybe the Raptors want to retain Jordan Noara, and they see no point in playing him and letting him blow up and having to sign him to a more expensive contract. I get all of that. He's not really an asset for you at this point. He's more an asset for himself. But, bro, like, I mean, like, if I did a cross comparison between these two players as Raptors, I would argue Noara's been better.
The point I'm making is not that Noira's been worse or better than Brown. I just think if you're making a play-in push, you usually want to have reliable, like, 1 or 2 veterans in there. That's where Bruce.
But one guy's 25 and the other guy's 27. What is the
27 and 25 is the difference. I mean, Quickley's 24, Ingram's 26. There is an age gap.
Compare their stats this season, because honestly, Bruce Brown's been pretty ass all year as well. Like, just to keep it a buck, they've been pretty dead even. Like, Noira's shooting better from 3, barely, but he has the potential at least to be like a really good, 3-point shooter. And he's respected as a 3-point shooter. Bruce Brown is not respected as a 3-point shooter. That's the difference. Per 100 possessions, Noara scores more. He is a higher volume 3-point shooter by 2 times. So he's taking more efficient shots. He gets to the line more. He rebounds more. He assists more. He steals more. What the fuck do you want? Like, what the hell is this? Like, I mean, I refuse to believe that the way that Bruce Brown is playing, that this 1% difference in their true shooting this year is telling me that Bruce Brown is deserving minutes over Jordan Noara right now. I'm sorry. Like, the highest points of Noara's, Raptor tenure have been better than Bruce's. And need I say that Bruce Brown has played 5 times as many minutes as Jordan Noara this year between both stints?
I mean, what's the alternative? Like, so you bench Bruce for Noara because you also want to preserve him for a trade.
Okay, here's my point. You have an abundance of playmaking talent.
Right.
An abundance. You have playmaking at almost every single position. Other than Gary Trent and, let's say, Ochai Agbaji, every single player who's playing for you has some level of playmaking talent. Quickley, not great at playmaking talent, but competent. Scottie, elite. Jakob, good. Kelly, really good. You don't need Bruce Brown. You need finishers. You need finishers. You need and need I also say with Noara, you're bigger. You're way bigger. He's like 6'8".
Yeah.
Right? So I refuse to believe right now, unless it is about preserving assets or whatever, that Bruce Brown has outplayed Jordan Noara. He hasn't. Like, I think they're at worst dead even. Worst case, dead even players right now. And I feel like with more minutes, Noara could shine. And I think, like, you know, this idea of proven versus not proven. I mean, what has Bruce Brown proven? Okay, fine. He's been good in Denver, and that's fine. But that's playing with Jokic. That is not a scenario that you can map here. I do think, however, that Scottie Barnes right now is much closer to Giannis than Jokic. You know, he's not really
What you
either
mean?
of those guys, but like, I mean, in terms of like the level of impact that he creates offensively, like I think he's much closer to Giannis than he is to Jokic. He's not on the level of either of
Right.
those guys, but Jokic is literally like skying in the heavens of God in terms of all-time, you know, creation. And, you know, the ability to create easy looks for his teammates is directly related to Bruce Brown's technical efficiencies in those situations. Also, the other stint where he was great was with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. So, I mean, like, yo, if he's not playing off of elite playmakers across the board, like, what is he getting you? Like, I think, like, what they've used him as, which is like a makeshift guard, point guard, center, I don't know what the hell, like some sort of hybrid Scottie wannabe. If they've used him in that role, you don't need that, though. You know what I mean? You need tough shot makers. You need guys who can get downhill. You need a little bit of size. You need a little bit of rebounding. And I'm sorry, like, for all of his playmaking talent, Noara has a higher assist percentage too. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, I think Bruce Brown's only advantage right now is that he's lower usage. He's lower usage and slightly higher efficiency. That's the advantage. But Noara has a better spacing ability. And I mean, and yeah, it's the contract or whatever. But like, man, and if I pit these two guys against Chris Boucher, they're both going to lose. So it's like, yeah, like at this point, how many times can Bruce Brown be the worst player on your team before you say maybe it's time to bench Bruce Brown for a little bit and just see what we have in these other guys? And if development is the name of the game, then I'm sorry, Jordan, you know, Javon Freeman-Liberty might deserve a bit of a crack right now.
That's fair. No, all those points are fair. That's fair enough.
I feel like right now, like what they're really prioritizing is secondary creation. Like, I think it's like, okay, we lost Dennis. I'm just going to go with Bruce because he's the closest thing to Dennis that I have, you know, in terms of just, but he's not creating well.
Not at all. He can't finish.
Number one, he can't finish. Number two, he's not like an advanced passer. He's like a good guy on like the secondary action in terms of like once he gets the ball, he can make the somewhat intelligent pass, which is more than I can say about some of the guys on this roster, Gary Trent. But that being said, if you can't finish an open layup, like what good are you? And you can't shoot, then what good are you? Just compounding spacing issues that are already being exacerbated by having Jakob Poeltl on the court.
Right. So I mean, I guess I see it. It's just from a contract perspective. You just bench him. It's fine. We still sell him off in the offseason. Yeah.
I feel like we missed a window to trade him for something of some value, and I feel like the Raptors would have probably gotten a better offer for Bruce had he just not played. Had he basically come and basically said, I want to be on a contending team, and the Raptors said, bet. And then they just sat him and shopped him around the league because apparently a lot of teams still wanted him. But now he's had 2 stints where he's not Denver Bruce Brown, and I feel like it is really, really impacting his market value as a trade piece. And I think that started with Indiana for sure, because he wasn't very good in Indiana, but you can make a case that, okay, it's just 1 stop. But now it's like happening in 2 stops, and you're like, okay, well, basically we need to have Jokic to make this guy great, and we don't have Jokic, so fuck it. You know, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, what did you hear? What offers were available that they didn't take?
Allegedly, there was a first-round pick, 2024 first-round pick, you know, available from the Knicks. Allegedly, you know, with you know, the Knicks wanting to package Grimes. And I mean, you know, I'm not exactly considering Grimes like the great asset or anything like that, but I mean, it's better than losing Bruce Brown for nothing. I don't
That's a
think like
decent return.
like, yeah, Grimes, Yvonne Fournier, and a 2024 pick. Like, they didn't want to take another 2024 pick, and I get that. I understand that. You know, at the same time, like for Bruce Brown, like if competing was, you know, the name of the game, and he really wanted to compete, sure, I think the Knicks were a great, you know, fit. And Sushant saying correctly that we should have moved Siakam and OG years ago. I don't agree with OG. I don't think we should have moved OG at all. But yeah, Siakam, yeah, value was higher. I don't know. They talk about flexibility, but flexibility changes as you go forward. I think Blake Murphy has a pretty interesting take on this in terms of like he's gone at it a few times where he's, you know, he talked about it with Bobby Webster, even like when he asks him, like, you know, at some point your flexibility changes, like your value changes. You hold things too long and they change. And every front office has let's call it like a blind spot. And I think this is the Raptors' blind spot where they keep kicking the can down the road, and they have this idea of like, well, this is, you know, flexibility. And at some point, you know, you just lose some of that flexibility because the years on the contract change, the terms of the contract change, the league changes, the player gets injured, all sorts of these things. So they're always rolling the dice. And I feel like too often they're crapping out.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Was it true there was an offer for Jalen Suggs and Van Vliet? I read that somewhere. I can't recall where. At the deadline last season.
I find it so hard to believe the Raptors would pass up on that. But if they did, wow.
I mean, Suggs wasn't having both of his first 2 seasons weren't really good. But,
no, I agree, and I'm the one who pitched that offer in a trade show, and I remember being, I believe I don't remember anyone else saying that, so I'm going to take claim until I know otherwise that was my trade offer, and I saw something turning in Suggs where I was like, okay, I have not been a big Jalen Suggs fan since the draft cycle. I have very much called him trash, but hey, like I'm seeing some growth in him right now. And I believe this is a player who can be a competitive role player by the end of next year. So let's trade Fred VanVleet for him. Allegedly, Fred wanted to go to Orlando. Orlando wanted him, whatever. They wanted a point guard. And so I was like, yeah, this is a great trade. You know, take Jonathan Isaac and, you know, Jalen Suggs for Fred VanVleet. But alas, it was not to be, and you lose him for nothing. And if you lose Bruce Brown for nothing, it's just like, that's an asset out the door because guaranteed his value was something. You know, and then, you know, Bobby Webster basically saying like, hey, we're comfortable keeping him if that's the way this shit rolls out, but you're not keeping him at 22 million. You're not keeping him at 22 million. And I want to be clear. Nobody was going to keep him at 22 million. Nobody. So everyone had the exact same idea. You're going to do one of two things. You're probably going to trade the player, whether it was going to be Indiana or whether it's going to be whoever signed him to that contract. Nobody's paying 2 years of that deal. And he knew it when he signed that deal, that no one in the world is taking that second year. So at this point, he's in a really precarious situation right now because the luster of that championship run has worn off. People now see him as a role player on a lottery team that was once a struggling role player on a play-in-ish team with the Indiana Pacers. Now you take a year removed off that. He gets 1 year older. And I'm positive that nobody is picking up that second year and he's going to hit free agency. At which point, had the Raptors traded him, they could have just brought him back. You really want him for $10 to $12 million, whatever, he's available. He'll be an unrestricted free agent, you know? So that's where I draw the line. Is like, you have the cap space. Why are you holding on to a guy that you have no intention of picking up his offer? Is like, this has to be a move for trade. Like, this has to be one of those things where you can package his salary with something, and the other team would get like a mammoth amount of cap relief because his contract is not guaranteed. Like, there's the contract, it's not guaranteed. The second year of it is a team option. At the draft, that first year that you have him on still wouldn't have been picked up. So you can decline, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a capologist, I've said this many times, I believe you can trade him, and then the team that gets him can simply just not pick up the second year. And at that point, he would become a free agent, and they can just sign him to a lesser deal. And I believe that that's what the Raptors plan to do. But at this point, it's like, well, if you just wanted to do that, you could have just traded him to a contender, right? And then just done that whenever some team declined to pick up his option. You could have given him the mid-level exception if you really wanted him so badly. Or you could have beat the mid-level exception, but at the very least, you would have gotten assets. Like, I just find it very strange the Raptors didn't move Bruce Brown. I find it very strange. Like, unless someone is going to tell me, hey, they really had no offers, at which point I would say, you probably had no offers because you waited too long and because you played him and he sucked, you know? Because I tell you, the day that they traded for him, I heard they definitely had offers.
Yeah, I thought he was gone in like a week or two.
I'm actually curious, like, why they didn't rope a third team into it and just make that trade right away. Why even bring him in?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why bring him in? Like, get that third team involved in the deal, make the trade with them, so you don't even have this sort of restriction with Bruce Brown, and just let him go that way. You know, like only a team like the Raptors would look at the season they were having and be like, you know what, this team really, really needs Bruce Brown. You know, jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, any final thoughts?
Yeah, not basketball related. In an earlier live, I was listening to you talk about what was the movie called? The Turkish Our House film. You played
Ararat.
Ararat. It's like a mountain, like with a Noah's Ark. Oh, okay.
Yep.
I appreciated how you said it was important to have films that don't always say something and it conveys things through subtle meaning. Cause like, and I looked at Penance Library, you had mid-90s up there. I think that's a really good example of that. Like in the end, where you have the transfer of power with the orange juice, things like that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to take a second to shout out this movie in a similar vein to that came out last year. It's called 1001, and it's about a single mother who kidnaps her own son out of the foster care system in New York, and
that's awesome.
Is their story growing up in Harlem, and just that subtle filmmaking. That's also my favorite. 1001.
How the hell haven't I heard of this? This is right up my alley. My God, this is like my life. Well, my mom didn't quite do that, but I did grow up in New York, and you know, I did touch the foster care system.
You relate to it.
Damn, I would relate to that.
You know, Rice Boy Sleeps. That's also another one that came out last year. It takes place in Toronto, another single mom immigrant story.
Are you're based in Toronto? No, you're not based in Toronto.
No, I'm
you're in the States, right? I was gonna say, like, I mean, damn, you're into these movies and you don't come to Penance? That's fucked up. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I fully feel that. Like, I think, you know, I just have a renewed vision for what we're trying to do here right now, you know. Like, the impact that these films had on people was crazy. I'm still getting emails to this day. That's part of why I'm like not able to do what I'm supposed to do, because I'm supposed to write all these emails out and I'm supposed to post all this stuff. But yo, like the amount of shit that just keeps coming back, and I'm thankful for all of it. I'm very thankful for it. In a really funny way, Pensar basketball has actually changed my strategy with Penance completely. Because like I was so cocky when we started this in 2017, 2019, 2020. Like, I was willing to tell anybody who would listen, like, we're better than this, we're better than that, we're so great, blah, 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 blah. And I just really, I lost perspective on who I am. And it's interesting. I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna pull something up. Hang on one sec. I'm gonna pull something up because I think this is relevant. It's actually, and it's not just Pensar basketball. It's actually Scottie Barnes. It's very Scottie related. Hang on, I'm gonna pull this up because I think it's fucking relevant as hell. Okay, hang on. Okay, share screen. Boom. Okay, so we are on Noara's Facebook profile. And that stuff. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna read this one out for people. I don't know if you've seen this. Did you see this? I also posted it on Instagram. Okay. So it said, for 6 years, I've watched this dude unapologetically be himself. The funny, goofy, quirky, all of it. They told him not to flex. He kept flexing. They told him not to dance. He kept dancing. I've witnessed the world say all sorts of nonsense about him for all these years, and I've seen him remain exactly who he's always been. True to himself, loyal, caring, honest, humble, hardworking, a great teammate. This year, I watched my favorite player become an all-star. Tonight, I watched him become the first Raptor in team history to record 4 triple-doubles in the same season. And he did it today how he did it back then. He did it as himself. At the All-Star weekend, he was asked about the season, and he said something remarkable that'll always stay with me. He said, I'm a happy person. You see my mom? She's that way too. That's who we are. My appreciation for Scottie Barnes goes beyond basketball, extends towards something broader about humanity. You are born as you. The world knocks you down, tries to mold you, adjust you, corrupt you, jade you, gas you. But keep being true to what you know. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Now, obviously, you know, this was sweet. His mom commenting, you know, saying, beautiful, made my eyes water. Thank you. But like, I mean, you should see like the how much that post blew up on her wall, because that's what she's been telling him his whole life. You know what I mean? Like she's been telling him, like, be you. And that's something that I learned a little bit from Brian too. And it's just not a message that I got a lot as a kid. Be you. I was told to be somebody else. I was told to act this way, act proper. You're taught a lot as a kid, like about preserving image, presenting yourself in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like
first impressions, whatever
absolutely.
that thing is.
So like the first year of Penance, I dressed up, even though I'm not a person who likes to dress up. I'm a person who likes to be in shorts and a hoodie, but I dressed up because I was told that's what's expected. And I wasn't myself. Second year of Penance, same thing. I'm wearing a suit. I don't want to wear a suit. I hate suits. I hate ties. I hate this shit. I don't want to dress this way, but I'm told what kind of a festival director does not dress this way. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm coming from with this, is like, with Pinside basketball, I have just been unapologetically myself, which means if I get angry, I'm not dodging the fact that I'm angry with somebody. I'm going to get angry. And if I need to apologize later, I'm going to apologize from my heart. And if I don't want to apologize, a lot of people, I'm not going to apologize to. And that's where it is. And that has been really great because this community has embraced me for me. It has actually been like, hey, you know, like we're going to fuck with this guy, even though he's sometimes unhinged, even though his lives are sometimes late, even though his content calendar, you know, sometimes goes a little bit awry. And it's been great to get that sort of acceptance, but also to be focusing on a player who is that way, and to see really, I don't think I was raised right. I really don't. Sometimes I feel like I wasn't raised to be functional. Like I was raised with a lot of dysfunctional ideas about myself and about the world. But it's great to see someone like Scottie. And what's interesting is when you are trying to be yourself, the world will always try to tell you to be somebody else. You know what's interesting? That whole Scottie leaving the court and, you know, responding the way he did, and that whole brouhaha and controversy. What did that all come down to? All of that came down to not lying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Unapologetically himself.
Unapologetically being himself. I just wanted to leave, so I left, and then that's it, right? And I mean, you know, you're gonna learn from it, you're gonna grow from it, right? Even, you know, like getting upset with the referees, he's just being himself. Like, this is great, because in the end, if you're yourself, you're gonna get feedback on who you actually are, and if you're somebody else, then you're gonna get feedback on not who you really are. So you're never gonna grow. You know what I mean? It's like one of our festival team members, she said this amazing thing. She's a very composed young woman. She's extremely accomplished. She's like 27 years old, and she's done like a million things, and everyone's intimidated by her. She's very tall and she's very beautiful, and like people just look at her like, whoa, you know, how does she do what she does? But she's, once in a while, she just takes off her makeup and she just gets real honest, and she's just like, I don't have answers. I'm fucking up all the time. I'm trying to do my best. And that makes her very relatable. And she says this thing that I really admire today. She said, sometimes you just have to ask for help, because if people don't know that you need help, they won't know how to offer it to you. And sometimes it just starts by being honest and saying, I don't know how to do this thing. You know, I started telling you know, my whole life, I grew up thinking I'm the guy who knows money, because I made money when I was younger. A lot of kids around me weren't making money. So I branded myself as the money guy. But I realized all money is not equal. I'm not really good at getting sponsorships. So I started telling my friends, I don't know how to get sponsorships. This is not my skill set. I don't know how to write grants. I don't know how to get sponsorships. Can you help me? The minute I did that, whoa, the sponsorship offers started to come in, because people were like, hey, here's this thing that you might have missed. Here's that thing you might have missed. So I'm saying that the attitude of Penance has now started to reflect that new reality that I'm living in, which is I'm just willing to be honest and very vulnerable about it. And, you know, I'm not going to front about if I fucked up. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I don't have a speech prepared here. Yes, we're running late. And that honesty transferred very much throughout the festival. It attracted different people. It's also now transferring to the sponsorships that are potentially available to us, because I think people feel that authenticity and people feel like, hey, I really want to help these people. What's interesting is that I'm learning constantly from people. This one particular filmmaker who came from Italy with his film, Giuseppe Garau, and he's Giuseppe Garau, and he's made this film, The Accident. It's an incredible, incredible, incredible film. And he is so freaking humble about everything. He's just like not full of himself. And he does this really brilliant thing where every single festival he goes to, he brings them like a branded bag. And in the bag, he includes like a booklet of his entire production design, like how they made the film and stuff. And so you have this like collector's item of his film, and it's such a nice touch. And then he brings every festival director like chocolate from Italy. And you're just like, dude, like these are such small things, but they make such a huge difference. And him being humble and him being gracious and him saying like, this guy just won Slam Dance, and he's just like sitting there at Penance, and then like Slam Dance been around for 20 plus years. They're a much bigger film festival than us, but he gave us like so much importance. It was crazy. So it's like, how could you not want to help this person? I would write a million emails to help this guy today. So it's like, be the type of person that people want to actually help is so important. And it starts with humility and honesty and trust. And, you think about like the support Scottie has from this community. How does that start? It starts with him being himself, because if he wasn't being himself, there's no way we're riding this hard for him. There's no way we're like attacking media members who are attacking him. There's no way we're voting 6 times a day to get him into the All-Star game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you are yourself, it makes people feel more comfortable, because then they feel like they can open up themselves as well.
Sure.
And it leaves you out of vulnerability, and then you feel like you can be vulnerable too. And,
sure.
part of the reason why I really watched this channel at first, it's not just because we're subscribed to basketball takes. I feel like a lot of the members here are subscribed to you as a personality. And I remember one of the reasons I was going to stop watching you for a little bit, because it was the night Steve-O first called in. I don't know if you remember.
I do. I do remember that. And
you blew up on him. And
I don't think I blew up on him. I got really frustrated, and I made a notion that like, am I dealing with someone with special needs?
Right.
Because I couldn't quite like, I wanted to be sure. So I asked, and as someone who's on the spectrum, I figured I would maybe just make sure that he wasn't. And of course, like I've talked to Steve-O off air after that and apologized, and I just felt so terrible because like I fully get it. Like shit, not a good moment at all. And
that's the thing. During the like right after, like at first I was like, bro, this guy's kind of being a dick. But right after you said, my heart breaks for anyone that calls in and it has a negative experience or something, and then you apologize. And I was like, you know what, like I could get behind this. He admitted his flaws on camera, and he didn't like, because a lot of people try to cover that up, try to cope, be like, oh, he did this, so I did that. But you were just so out there, and you were just so yourself, and I think that's something that attracts people to your channel. Is you're just like, you don't sugarcoat anything. You're just you, and it's just human.
That's very observant of you that you would remember that particular moment. That's very interesting as well, that it would be that particular moment and not like one of the other 100 particular moments with Marco or whoever. Look, I've been really wrong a lot. I mean, there's one day where I feel like I'm gonna have to watch some of my old lives and just live react and just hold my head the whole time in contrition and just be like, what the fuck was I doing? Why did I do that?
To add on to that, let me give a recommendation. Part of the reason I know that Steve won so far is because in that that night, this Serbian guy trolled you so hard. You got to react to that one. He was trolling you about he was like, Fred VanVleet is a leader on defense. He's a leader of the team.
Oh God, I remember that.
That dude was hilarious.
Oh my God, that guy was that guy made me like question my sanity for a second. I was like, is this guy trolling?
100%.
He was trolling, right? My bad.
Yeah, 100%.
No, I feel like he might have been being real for sure. Yeah, She-Wolf. By the way, my son's name is Evan, not Jake. My bad. So Evan is going to put potentially that picture or hopefully some better picture up on his wall of fame. yeah, look, like, I mean, I feel like we're all wounded to some extent, and our wounds
100%.
often like taint our interactions with others. And sometimes we can assume negative intent when negative intent is not there. I think there were a couple of instances of that, like even this weekend, where I feel like something didn't go right. And maybe in the past, like, I mean, here's one of the things that I realized. So you recall like me talking like a lot last year about editing my feature, right? So one of the worst parts.
What month?
Hmm?
What time period was it in 1 month?
It was like for a good solid 3 months. Like that's when I stopped making content for a bit. It was like 2 straight months in the summer. I think it was August, September, where I just wasn't making content very much because I was just like I was absorbed. I was like 100 million% into my film.
Right.
I don't think I ever. Hold on. Why didn't I do that? Hang on one sec. I'm gonna show you what I mean. So did I ever share this? Like, I'm kind of curious now myself, like if I ever share this. Anyways, so I was just so absorbed in that film. And the hardest part of editing that film, to some extent, not like it wasn't like everything, but one of the biggest parts of like the hardest parts of editing that film was basically I had to watch myself direct. And that was really tough. Like really tough.
Like what, the way you don't like the way you were talking to people or something?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I had moments, man. Like this was my color grading that I did. This is what I was doing.
Very
Basically
nice.
that. Yeah. So like, yeah, the underlying footage was so bad. My God. Wait, this was the finalized one. There we go. Yeah. So anyway, so I was doing that. And like every time you would go to the end of a take or an end of a clip, maybe something didn't go right. And I would be like talking to my girlfriend at the time. I'd be like, yo, are you fucking kidding me right now? And I'm just like, you said that, like, you motherfucker, like you were talking to her like that, like right there. And she just took it. And it was just like, it was such a dick move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh man, there was a couple like that, it wasn't like all the time, but it was like at least 4 or 5 places where you're just like, get out of my way. You're just talking to someone, you're like, yo, get out of the fucking way. Are you fucking kidding right now? Like something like that. And you're just like, my God, like there was a 1,000% nicer way to ask someone to get out, to move. And it's just like, man, like, you just get caught up in your fucking task, and then you get frustrated with people, and then these people are working with you, and it was very ugly. It was very disgusting, and it was it gave me a really good perspective on. I'll give you another example. Like shit, it was Penance year 2, and we had this gala, and I had this in my mind that we had to have a gala for VIPs. I don't know who put it in my mind. I don't know why it was in my mind. Maybe I'm the one who put it in my mind. I have no idea where this idea came in my head that this had to be like some sort of VIP gala where like all the actors of Toronto that are on TV had to be at this gala, and we could snap pictures and be like, look at how big a deal Penance is. That is not the essence of who I am. But that day, that's what I wanted to do. And in the back of your head, you're well-intentioned. You're like, yeah, once we do this, then we can do all the good things that we want to do for people. But for now, we got to get all these famous people together, and we got to get these big-time directors together. We got to show them what Penance is. Well, guess what? A couple things happened. Number one, a lot of people wanted to come to that gala, and we basically told them to go fuck themselves, right? We told them, no, sorry, guest list only, VIP only. I think for all those people, they will never come back because you just basically said you're not important. And you're nobody at this point. Penance was nothing at that time. So who the fuck are you to tell me I'm not important? I've been on 4 TV series, and you're telling me that you're not accepting me at your fucking gala. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, so it was such a dipshit thing to do, and it's how we did it. Then something really weird happened. One of our programmers ended up by accident inviting like 40 people, right? And he didn't realize that like our list meant one thing, whatever. He ended up inviting those people, and they all wanted to come. And I made him uninvite those people and tell them, no, they can't come. Those people, basically their emails were basically all swear words. They were just like, go fuck yourselves. Okay. But I was just like, whatever. We're going to get these like super, super incredible people together and these big time artists or whatever. And everyone's going to be like, wow, Penance. Well, here's what happened. A lot of those people came. They didn't give a shit about Penance. They wanted the free drinks. They wanted to hang out with their other famous-ish friends. And guess what? Guess how many of them actually came to the festival and saw some movies? 0, because they didn't give a fuck. And that was it. Like, that night was so pretentious and so wrong. And we wanted to be something that we weren't. And we wanted to fly people out. We wanted to spend money that we didn't have. And it was just so wrong. And, you know, to anyone out there who formed an impression of Penance in year 2 or year 3 as this like very pretentious, highly ambitious, you know, snobbish event, I fully empathize. I get that. And if I was in their shoes, I would feel the same way too. But, you know, the pandemic was very humbling, you know, losing that event and then just being able to talk to these filmmakers. It just completely, you know, we were doing Skype interviews, like not Skype interviews, StreamYard interviews, just like this, you know, where just to say you're a director and you made a film, I'm just talking to you like about your film. And it completely reperspectivized what this was even about. I'm like, hey, there's no fancy venue. There's no A-list, you know, celebrity. There's nothing. It's just this. This is what this is about. Shit. So after the pandemic, I gave up any notion of like how expensive the venue or how nice the venue has to be. I gave up any notion of how much money needs to be spent or VIP parties or whatever. And this year we had this party, which was incredible, by the way. And we opened it up to anybody. Literally anybody who wanted to be there could be there. There was no guest list. It was nothing. Not because we don't have standards. The party was still full of artists, still full of incredible people, still full of friends, still full of, you know, people from all diverse walks of life. And people loved it. People loved it. They loved the fact that it was open and that it was accepting. And the entire philosophy has now changed. And one thing that I've realized is that it's not a construction or it's not a means of anything. There's no anxiety either. Like if a screening is running half empty, I don't care. Like we tried our best and it's good. And people felt it. And I've never felt people like get so happy when they were at Penance. Like the audience was raving. I had people who missed it message me and said, I heard from my friend who went that this was the best Penance they've ever been to. Good job. I'm so sorry I missed it. I'm like, and there was no fancy anything. Nothing was fancy. There was no, it was just human. It was, the whole thing was human. So I think I'm like very much thanking God right now for Scottie, you know, to some extent for just kind of setting the example. It's weird as a 36-year-old to look at a 22-year-old as an example for how to be, but it's a good reminder of, you know, how one should be. Treat people with respect, care, empathy, love, support. And obviously, I'm very glad that I grew up a little bit. So I feel like a lot of the same intention, you know, that with Pensar basketball, where, you know, you're kind of snippy with other content creators, you're talking shit about the media, you're talking down to maybe, I don't know if I talked down to guests. I have no idea, but I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did to some extent. And that, yeah, maybe indirectly, maybe directly. But you know, that comes from a place of insecurity always. Anyone who does that, I feel like they are deeply insecure people about something. And I certainly must have been insecure if I'm, you know, talking down to people or demanding VIP, whatever. So this has been
putting yourself out there, like on camera, on live, or just like your takes getting reprimanded. Like, what was it in Pensar that made you talk down to people, your guests? Let's have a psychological session.
Probably low self-esteem.
You think so?
Maybe low self-esteem. You know, like I used to like, because I mean, I don't know, like I sometimes I would I remember like, you know, in 2020 I would go on dates and I had this obnoxious habit of like bragging about accomplishments within like the first 5 minutes. I would just slip it in there. I would find a way to slip it in there and be like, yeah, by the way, founded a film festival and, you know, founded, you know, this and wrote for this publication and that publication and bought my home at this age and whatever. And it's just like, are you even interested in what this other person has to say? Like, you're so busy trying to sell them. You don't even know if they're someone worth selling to. You didn't ask any questions. And that led for some very obnoxious, you know, first dates. I think some of them went okay. If the person could just override my initial discomfort with the date and we can get into an actual conversation, maybe something could happen. But usually there was that. I think it comes from the fact that because my parents passed away when I was so young, I know that I don't have necessarily the most conventional offer on the table. Like my kids will never have grandparents from my side. I don't have any inheritance waiting for me. There's no support. This is such a normal thing. Like, when I talk to my friends, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to come to your film festival." My parents are looking after. I cannot offer that to anybody. So many women, and I don't know, like there's also a stigma. Like I feel like, when you lose your parents really young, I've felt this a couple times, especially when I was 21, 22, when it was very awkward that the person that I'm dating doesn't have parents. You're just like, oh my God, did they get blown up? Not that that's funny, but like, I mean, like it's such a tragedy. Like, can you imagine, like you meet a 21-year-old and they're just like, yes, my parents are dead. You're just like, whoa, did they die in a plane crash? Like what happened? This is not normal. And typically when you say it, they assume they both died. So it's like people look at you like you're really messed up. Like they look at you like you're fucked. And I think that's actually, I think we through talking about it, I think I've come to a conclusion as to why, I was so big-headed and so likely to brag about things and like that, because what happens is when you grow up in government housing, people assume that you're poor, and naturally, and people assume that you're dirt and that you have nothing, whatever, and you don't want to feel that way. So you start bragging about having high grades, and you develop some sort of like classic overachiever complex. And so, when your parents pass away, you're a sad story. And I don't want to be anyone's sad story. I don't want anyone to meet me and be like, oh, poor you. Actually, it's interesting. My friend Santiago, he said, I think we were like 22, 23. And then I started dating this girl who was very attractive. And I had my home. I bought my home. I graduated. And he was like a year older than me. And he didn't have any of those things. And he's like, Rob, sometimes I really envy you. And I felt inside like so happy when he said that, because he has his parents. And in a weird way, I envy him a lot more than he envied me. But I didn't share that with him in that moment. I just relished in the fact that somebody envied me, because it meant that, I wasn't a pitiable person. So yeah, so I think it comes from a lot of that. Like I think it's a classic overcompensation. It's very Fred VanVleet type of stuff, which is ironic, isn't it? Build an entire channel basically shitting on Fred VanVleet when you actually have a lot in common with Fred VanVleet, in terms of like, your complex, not your success. Obviously, Fred VanVleet is a million times more successful than I probably ever will be. So in terms of money and success in his career and stuff. But yeah, so I think that's where it comes from. Honestly, I do. I think, all of that classic overcompensation comes from a lack of self-worth and a deep-seated insecurity that someone would look at you and say you're not enough. So you almost want to beat them to the punch and be like, oh yeah, well, I founded 3 companies, so you have to be envious of that before you get to pity me for having dead parents. You know what I mean?
Really similar to, I don't know if you know him, George Foreman. His life story
I'm
very
similar
similar
to George
that
Foreman?
that story of not having, well, he had both his parents. Just he grew up in poverty, government house, stuff like that, and he would always overcompensate as a kid to make up for that. And I felt like that's really similar to what you said.
That's interesting. I mean, I find that to be a pretty common story among a lot of kids that I grew up around.
I was the same way. Yeah.
Were you the same way?
I was the same way. I don't really have any nice shoes. When I was in elementary school, and all the kids had Nikes and Jordans, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So then, like, one day I told my dad, and he got mad if they were saying it about me. He bought me some good shoes. I went to Foot Locker for the first time, and there was some nice looking shoes. I think they were like Air Maxes, probably like 85. But then when they asked me about it, I would overstate. I'd be like, well, they were actually 120, just to get that respect finally, to overcompensate for the fact I didn't have expensive shoes.
So interesting. That's so interesting. I think I've also shared a shoe story, right?
Yeah, you have.
What's interesting is actually, damn, when you watch your parents lie, like it makes it pretty comfortable to lie. I think if we have kids, when we have kids, whatever, I will make it a very, very big point to say that nothing is worth lying over. But
Facts.
I did watch my parents definitely lie about, their financial situation to a lot of their friends, like, and I would know the truth, about where they were living or how they were doing or whether or not they just got evicted. So I would watch us get evicted, and then I would watch my dad on the phone talk to his grandparents, talk to his parents, and be like, "Oh, we're choosing to move." And I'm just listening to this conversation as a 6-year-old, being like, "Bro, you got evicted. I remember my toys were outside the fucking door." That. But also then this transfers over to how you behave when things create shame. So you're learning a lesson at that point. Obviously, if you're ashamed, lie, which is not a good lesson to learn as a child. And so I remember very much that I think it was I want to say I was 9 years old or 10 years old, and all these kids were talking about their video games, and I don't have any video games at the time. I believe I got a Nintendo 64 literally the year after. However, at the time, I did not have any video games, and I never had video games because my parents did not want me to have video games, or we couldn't afford it. I don't remember which was which. However, in grade 4, I did not have video games, and I very, very distinctly remember, someone just putting me on the spot and saying, "What games do you have?" And I was just like, I just blurted it out. I have an N64. And I didn't really even know what an N64 was at the time. And then it just spiraled. And so they were just like, "What games do you have?" So, and I felt like people knew that I didn't because I was so poor. Like, how did I get an N64? And people were very envious, and everyone wanted to come over, and I would keep making excuses like, "Oh, no, my mom doesn't want people over." And then randomly people would just be like, "So, what games do you have for the N64?" I'd be like, "A lot. I have to go." And
It's crazy. Oh, go
what,
ahead.
you did the same thing?
Bro, it's so weird. You're double my age, old man, but it's such a
Yo,
weird
fuck
parallel.
off. So I'm not that old. I'm 36 years old. And if I ever get some sleep and some water in me, I won't look a day over 30. However, I will say that this is a very common thing. And ironically, we actually programmed a film at Penance called Excursion, in which a young girl lies about having sex at 14 because she wants to seem cool and advanced. And this lie basically unravels. It's so human for children to lie about innocuous things like this, like having this cool birthday present coming up or whatever. I remember watching Boy Meets World. I don't know if you ever watched Boy Meets World, but you're way too young to watch Boy Meets World. As it was happening, you were like basically an infant. However, I think there was an entire one where like Sean, who's a poor kid, and Corey, who's the wealthy kid, Sean just lies about the gifts that he got. It's a common coping mechanism for being poor, is to lie about how poor you actually are. No one is going to school bragging about the fact that you ate Kraft dinner for dinner like the 6th straight night. Like nobody, and so yeah, like Thanksgiving comes and you don't get a big turkey, you get chicken, or if you're lucky, you get chicken. And so it's like, anyways, long story short, I ended up like making up a few games that I had. And then one day when I was in the shower, my friend who lived in the same building as me came to my house. My mom let him in because she knew we walked home together, and he had a nice little conversation with my mom about my fictional N64. Of course, I had not told my mom about the N64, and so she found out that what an N64 was because I didn't have one. And so he's like, "So where's Rob's N64?" And she's like, "What's that?" And then he's just like, "The video games." It's like, "Oh no, he's not allowed to have video games." And I was so fucking embarrassed. And then I tried to play it off like, "Ha, gotcha." Super embarrassing, and now you get you get teased mercilessly, like, at school for not having an N64. Actually, the worst thing was, and this is a very, very human thing, I used to feel like all the other kids got like $2, $3 or $4 to eat lunch at the cafeteria, or they could go just basically off school property, get some pizza or whatever, and it just cost $2, $3, $3 bills. And my mom always insisted on packing my lunch and making my lunch. And in hindsight, she made me the greatest burgers I think I've ever tasted. I think to this day, I'm looking for a burger that tastes that good, and I cannot find it. It was so good. And make matters worse, she was working 3 jobs at the time. So she would absolutely get up early after like working a double, and then get up, make me this burger, pack it up in saran wrap, put it in my backpack, put it whatever. But all this burger represented to me was poverty. It was just, because when she explained it to me, she didn't say, "This is the tastiest thing you're ever going to have in the rest of your life, and you better fucking enjoy this burger." What she said was, I'm not paying $3 for pizza so you can be with your friends. I'm going to give you this burger because this burger per unit costs us $1.10, and that's what it is. So she explained it as in this burger is a reminder / extension of your poverty. So what did I do? I didn't eat lunch. I didn't eat lunch for a whole year, dude. I gave my lunch to this dude. Now, I tell you, I was a very tall kid. I was extremely tall. I was like the back of my, class pictures and whatever. That dude was shorter than me. By the year's end, all the fucking protein that this guy got off of me, he was like a foot taller than me. He was like, it fucking grew so much. He got my growth spurt. And I really feel like to this day, I was supposed to be like 6'3", and I just didn't eat protein for like 2 straight years and shrunk myself. And then make matters worse, I followed that up by getting acne. And someone told me you can't drink milk when you have acne because dairy is bad for, has iodine or something. So I stopped drinking milk for another 3 years. So there goes the rest of my protein. I basically didn't have protein for 4 fucking years. So my kids are probably gonna be really tall because I definitely have like some tall genetics in my family. But like shit, I killed my growth spurt, bro. So I just feel like, and all of that was what? Oh my God, I'm not going to school. I have pimples on my face. Oh my God. So it's so relatable, the experience of being young and being ignorant and getting the bad information at home. Nobody sat down and explained this to me. I don't know if I would have understood it if they had. Nobody sat down and explained to me, hey, it doesn't matter that you don't have a video game. It doesn't define your self-worth, because at school, it does define your self-worth.
Facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kid you gave your lunch to, he was Fred VanVleet.
Pardon?
The kid you gave your lunch to, he was Fred VanVleet. You activated his growth spurt.
The kid, what? He was Fred VanVleet?
It was a joke. The kid you gave your lunch to that ended up getting a growth spurt, that was Fred VanVleet.
Well, ironically, when he moved, I didn't have anyone to give my lunches to anymore. So, and I mean, I wasn't even entrepreneurial enough to sell my lunches to him. So that at the very least, I could have like made $1, $2 per burger. Like he loved these burgers. He's like, "These are the best burgers I've ever had." And I was just like, "Bro, take them," because I don't want to. So after he left the school, or I think I left the school and I shipped schools. So at that school, I didn't have any friends, or I didn't make any friends, and I just kept putting the burgers in my closet.
Jeez.
Until like 3 weeks later, when my mom found all of them in a big garbage bag, and like, I'm gonna make a film about that someday, because the way her heart broke when she found all those lunches and all those sandwiches and all those burgers that she had made. Can you imagine like spending all those hours making that food for this kid, and because he was embarrassed that the burger represents poverty, that he didn't want it. So that was like right around when I got a job. I was like 12 or 13 and I got a job, and then I started, like I was like, okay, now I can afford to get a pizza. But it's like, yo, bro, like what the fuck? You were getting homemade burgers with like veggies and stuffings and like mozzarella cheese and shit. Yo, I miss it. I miss my mom for that. She was a really good cook. Damn.
In my life, you don't understand the value of things like that till you grow up. But like for you, all you could see was disgust. You saw poverty. You were.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And now, honestly, like I don't buy clothing. Like my girlfriend was so impressed that I got 2 pairs of pants for Penance, and I wore the shit out of them. I was gonna show up to Penance in swim shorts. Like I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, I heard about that, bro.
I'm kind of glad I didn't though. But yeah, like I mean, I bought a pair of shoes. They're kind of nice. I mean, they're $59 from Winners. So I mean, I don't know. Convert that to US. That's like I got $45 shoes, and everyone was very impressed that I ended up splurging $45 for shoes.
Right.
I don't know. Like Shirt and Forbes saying, "Mama was trying to teach you it's cheaper to make it than buy it." And you know what's hilarious? I make my food all the time. My girlfriend's like, "Oh, let's order pizza. Let's order Hakka chow mein or whatever." Yo, if I open that closet back there, it's like literally like 10 stacks of noodle packets. I make all my own food now. So it's so ironic how I turned out. Maybe you need to go through some of this pain, some of these struggles to like actually learn, what life is about. And maybe you need to make these mistakes and then learn to sort of forgive yourself. But I felt like a great deal of anxiety for most of my life about everything, about how I'm being judged, perceived, whether I'm, failing, successful, whatever. I have to tell you, like over the last year and a half to year, especially the last 6 months, I have completely lost it. Like I don't completely lost it. I have no idea. I have lost like 90% of all of that nausea and anxiety. I feel like I sleep a lot, better. I don't sleep very much, but I sleep better. I sleep easy. I don't wake up in a panic. I don't like when I see like overwhelmingly negative opinions about me, and there are many, many negative opinions about me on the internet. I don't sweat. Like I don't lose my day spiraling over it and wondering like what people are saying. And when I make mistakes, I don't spiral on those either. I usually move on pretty quickly. So it's been pretty great. Like, and I think that it's transferred over to Penance so much, but I also think it might have transferred over to Pensari basketball because I feel like, do you remember when we crossed 5,000 subscribers last year?
I don't think I was there. For
You
that
weren't
video.
there? You definitely were actually.
I was sub, but I don't think I watched that live.
Okay, so basically we're stuck at 5,000 for I want to say like 2.5 months. Basically, lose 20 subscribers, gain 20 subscribers, lose. I was making lives every second day, and just couldn't move past this. And I was just like, have I just hit a plateau where I cannot move up at all? And it frustrated me. I'd be checking like every morning, like, did we get 20? Nope. It's just every video is like either you -5 or +5. And I was like, yo, what is going on out there that I cannot seem to break through this? And yeah, so it was very interesting. And it was such a preoccupation. And now we've probably been stuck on like 8,300-ish subscribers for like a month. And I do not care. It's not like I don't want this channel to grow. It will grow when it's going to grow. You know, when the content is out and when it gets better and when I'm able to put in some time, I'm sure it'll grow. But that anxiety of like, what will people think? You know, I'm not reading comments anymore. I did not check Twitter today. Like after my post, I just went on, posted my thing, and I'm done. So it's been great. I feel like I'm about as well adjusted today as I ever dreamt I could ever be, given like the experience I had. So yeah.
Yeah, get that weight off your shoulders.
Yeah. Like that nauseating, what do people think? What does this mean? Constantly trying to worry about things that you have no control over. I don't control what people say on forums about me. Why should I spend like my energy, worrying about it? And, more importantly, why should I spend time defending it? Just because someone says something like if I call you like a anti-Semitic, based on what?
Like hate Jewish people?
Yeah. Like, so if I called you anti-Semitic, you, like most people, you would probably find a reason or a need to defend against that charge. It's a pretty heavy charge.
Right.
But I think now, like if someone said that, I would be like, what is the basis for your accusation? And I would watch them just melt. Because I know I'm not. But I mean, like more importantly, like I'm not willing to engage. Because it's like if you leave the terms of engagement up to somebody else, there's always going to be someone who's crazier than you who's going to come in and just be like, yeah, but you hate Fred VanVleet. Well, you hate Pascal. Yeah, but if you don't hate those people, then this is not a conversation worth engaging in. And what's interesting also is like filtering. Like I remember I messaged a friend of mine who is, I don't want to say big time in the NBA, but he's a big deal in NBA circles. And I messaged him this thing about Scottie Barnes. And I said, yo, like, I think I messaged him like 3-4 times, and he was very patient about it the first 3 times when I messaged him. And I said, can you believe what they're saying about Scottie? This is really fucked up, blah, 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 blah. And then the 4th time, he just messaged me back very kindly. And he said, yo, bro, like, I don't need this. Don't, like, this is not helpful for me. I don't want to talk about this shit. And that was a very interesting moment where I was just like, yes, this is the way to do it. This is the filtration that you need. You have someone who always introduces negativity in your life because they're spiraling and drowning. You just have to set a boundary, and then you have to see if they're the type of person who's going to respect it, or the type of person who's going to try to gaslight you and call you a bad friend or call you a bad person for not wanting to hear them out. And those are 2 brilliant red flags. Because if next week I had sent him another article, that would be a very, very good indication for him, in my opinion, to just cut me off, not talk to me anymore. I also believe that if I had kind of like been like, oh, well, I was just trying to share, if you don't want that, that energy, right? If I had done that, that's also a great reason to not do that. And if I had apologized and then I'd done it again, that's also a great reason to cut the person off. I feel like he kind of gave me like a perspective on what a well-adjusted person would do in that situation. Because I tell you right now, I have people who fucking negatively, I feel it in my bones when they message me that this is not going to be a good message. This is going to be complete bullshit. and I'll continue to answer them or whatever. But now I'm like setting the terms of engagement very quickly. I'm just like, I'm not interested in discussing this. If you would like to discuss something else, let me know. That's it. It's super nice. It's super polite. It's probably very blunt, and it usually shuts down any negative behavior very quickly. It's great.
Yeah, depending on if they cross that boundary or not, if they're a person worth talking to or not. Like it's very important.
Yeah, for sure. RKER TV saying, for my time well spent tonight. Dude,
That's
thank
awesome.
you so much. That's very kind of you. Yeah, no, this conversation's been great. I feel like our conversations are always great. Probably because we have so many shared experiences, which is interesting because you're clearly Gen Z, right?
What's that? That's like I'm 05.
You're born in 2005. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We just interviewed somebody. She's fucking fantastic. For our arts director role, and I had to reconcile in my own mind that she was born in 2004, and I'm just like evaporating in my brain. I'm just like, oh my God, like 2004, people were born in 2004, and you're born in 2005. That's crazy.
Isn't great?
Next thing you're gonna tell me, people were born in 2019. Were people born in 20? Oh shit.
Oh yeah, I had a baby cousin in 2019.
Damn, yo, that's
Yeah, man,
crazy.
You're just old, man. You're old.
Getting older, yo. Like I remember when we were running the dog walking company, I remember we hired a girl named Catherine who ironically ended up doing the neuroscience video with me on this channel. And I remember finding out that she was born in like 95 or 96, and I just lost my mind. I was like, what the fuck is happening here? This is crazy. And looked at her passport, it's like 96. This is nuts. And then one of my best friends, the year after, who ended up working for Penance, she was born in 97, Masha. So it's like, yo, like, I mean, I'm sorry, like I just kind of, but it's interesting because at the festival, when you're like dealing with volunteers and stuff, I found that a lot of people that I was getting along with, they were very diverse. So one person that I got along with is a guy who's obsessed with chess, and he just wanted to talk about chess the whole time, and I'm like very willing to engage in this conversation. He is 56, 57, something like that. And then there was this other guy who just wanted me to get into the gym. He's just like, yo, I'm going to get you to the gym, whatever. He was in his early 20s, and he was fantastic too. So I'm getting along with like a very wide spectrum of people from all different walks of life and different ages. And then this one girl, like, who snapped all those beautiful pictures that I specifically looked at earlier, like she's like fully a student in film school right now. And she's second year, third year, whatever. So she is like you, born in the 2000s. She's born in 2004, 2005. So yes, and she was a very easy person to talk to as well. I always kind of feared getting older because I remember my parents having like such a hard time talking to people who were younger than them. Like I would see them try to talk to my younger cousins and they'd be like, so what's computers? Like they just didn't know how to discuss with them. But I'm very thankful that I've always had like really, really positive interactions with people that are younger than me. I think partially because I did the tutoring stuff and I did all the lecture circuits in the high schools and stuff. So I was always talking to younger people. And because I work in film, I'm constantly working with people who are like 22, 23, 24, working in PAs. But yeah, so I don't know.
Part of that probably comes from film watching too. Like I think people who watch a diverse set of films, film watching. I think people who watch and understand movies on a more than surface level, I think you understand perspective more and you just connect with people more on a general scale. That's what I was. I feel like I opened up to people from like parts that were different from me a lot more after I watched a lot more films because you just see so many more perspectives and walks of life. So I feel like maybe that has some impact because it did for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. Yeah. Anyways, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. I do unfortunately have to get back to Penance emails and all that stuff, but time very, very well spent. And thanks for sharing that thing about Steve-O. Like that that really was a particular low point. And I'm willing to say if the same thing happened today, I think I would act very differently. But I guess I won't know until it happens. But yeah, I think these lives have just been better in general. I feel like I'm attracting a lot less negative attention anyways. And I feel like when I do attract negative attention, I'm dealing with it a little bit better. I'm pretty quick with the ban hammer now too. So that's good too. because I've learned that I can do that. I don't have to engage in people that are negative, and I think like I owe that to that scout that I reached out to, that just said like, no, I don't want to deal with this right now, and it's just, that's great. It's great. Like to feel like you have the confidence to just tell people how you're willing to deal with, it's like, you're going to deal with me this way or we're just not going to deal. And it just not saying in a dickish way, like, like, oh, I deserve something better. But it's like, actually just, this is a human right to dictate like, hey, if I'm going to be around you, I don't want to drink alcohol, or I don't want to smoke, or I don't want to, I don't know. Like if someone moved in, like I think one of my biggest frustrations in life has always been, a lack of willingness or confidence to define boundaries, and then being secretly very upset when people don't respect the boundaries that I never even outlined to begin with. If that makes sense.
Was it because there was a lot of unwritten rules when you were growing up, and you get punished if you didn't follow them? Like things that weren't spoken about, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how spoken they were. I mean, I was pretty I'm pretty comfortable. I was told that I got in trouble for like the stupidest shit ever. Like I got in trouble for not tucking in my chair, or not cleaning the mat, or forgetting Kleenex in my shorts, and then the shorts going into the dryer, and then it being a fire hazard or something, which I don't even think is scientifically true at this point, but whatever. Or I don't know, like accidentally leaving, I don't know, not cleaning the toilet seat, after I went, or I don't know, shit, like some of the dumbest shit ever. Like I remember one of the dumbest things I got in trouble for, I remember with my aunt, was like going through a revolving door before like waiting for the other person's turn. So I actually like just ended up going through with the person, and it was very awkward. And I mean, I don't know how to walk through a revolving door. The fucking thing, I walk through the Ritz every day. Like I was a broke kid from, Washington Heights. I don't even know what the hell these things are, it's just stupid shit like that, like not looking both ways before I cross, looking down, I don't know, not standing straight. I got in trouble for a lot of stupid shit. I got in trouble for sleeping in the car once. Like the dumbest shit in the world. One summer they were like, you don't read enough. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, when you let other people define like what you're going to do because you're so insecure about them teasing you for what you don't do, like you sort of lose authorship in your life, and you just end up becoming like a floating butterfly, and you're just like walking from place to place to place to place, saying like, what do you think that I should be doing? Or what do you hate me for today? Like, what do you hate me for not doing? And so I can prove that I'm doing that. And I see this classic overcompensation in a lot of people, especially young people that I meet. They call it ambition, they call it whatever, but it's really just a gnawing anxiety that they're not good enough, and that they have to prove that they're good enough. And while these people may seem very functional, and they may seem very successful sometimes, like the ends do not always justify the means. And there is really no success without resolving that trauma that is driving you towards success. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Whereby and then it becomes very addictive too, right? Because if you define yourself, I've found that if you define yourself as like a hard worker, then you are sometimes loosely attached to the things that create the hard work. And very often, especially in immigrant children, especially in first generation immigrant children, especially in children who grew up in government housing and poverty, if you did make it out of there, you define yourself by your hard work, but you're also technically tying that hard work to a trauma response. You're working hard because somebody told you would die if you didn't, you know what I mean? So there's no peace. You get no peace, and I actually learned something a few days ago. So I don't know if your parents ever did this. My parents definitely did. Did they ever tell you, like, if you don't do this, or if you don't become this, that it will be bad?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You
I think a lot of
college, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of parents do that, like a lot. And one of the things that I've realized is that that's actually enmeshment trauma.
It is.
You've read up on this?
I haven't, but like if I was to define it based on like my own deep dive into like myself and the trauma, being told if you don't do this, or you'll end up like this, it binds you to that thought, like that you need to do it. It consumes you, and you can't think of anything else. Otherwise, you feel lesser.
Yeah. It's basically when a parent tells you that if you are not an engineer or a lawyer, then I will disown you, which is a very unfortunate message that a lot of immigrant children get, right? If you
Right.
don't graduate from high school, then you're out of the house. If you don't behave, we're going to kick you out of the house. We're going to send you to a hostel. We're going to send you to boarding school. We're going to send you to foster care. We're going to give you up for adoption. We're going to leave you in the streets. All of these things are, in the name of discipline, right? You're trying to raise well-adjusted children who will be productive members of society. And so you have defined a map, which is based on the map that your parents defined for you on how they are supposed to do that. How are they supposed to earn a wage? And of course, no parent, my mom would always say to me, like, if you're a piece of shit, what will people say about me? Now, this is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
very,
I heard that.
very, very bad thing, because very often, and my friend Milian, he was at Penance and he's a great DP. We were having a conversation about child raising techniques and what is a good way to be a parent and what is maybe not so great way to be a parent. And we were talking about the attention that a child needs and meeting children's needs as they come up. And he was just like, yeah, but sometimes you don't. What if, and he said, what if you need to make lunch for the child, but the child wants to ask you about, Antarctica, right? Don't you have an obligation to finish making their lunch because they will starve? And then maybe you'll just tell them, I don't want to talk about Antarctica right now. I have to make your lunch. And I said, do you see what you just did? And he's like, what? And I was like, making your child's lunch is not his need. It's your need. It's your need to be a parent who made their child's lunch. His present need right now is to connect with his parent on a topic of interest, which is Antarctica. And the enmeshment comes from not being able to tell the difference between those two things.
Right.
See what I mean? So, like, you could have a child who's misbehaving in a toy store and you might say, shut up, we're going to fucking take you home. Or you might even swear at the kid. I hope you don't swear at the kid, but like, you might tell the child, shut up, or like, you're not going to get, Christmas present or something like that, or I'm never going to buy you anything, or I'm never going to take you out again or something. And you might think in that moment that you're saving the child from being a disobedient child. There may be, even making a scene and feeling embarrassed, but really the actual embarrassment is not the child. The child does not care. 4-year-old to 3-year-old, there's no sense of embarrassment until they are told what embarrassment is. The child is crying because they are demanding something of a parent that is not being met. The parent is reprimanding the child because it is them who do not want to be embarrassed as the parent who has a child who is out of control and being judged for what kind of parent are you. This anxiety needs to be ideally resolved before people opt to become parents, in my opinion. And this idea of my identity being rooted in my child doing certain things or not doing certain things is absolutely a recipe for enmeshment trauma. It is always a recipe for enmeshment trauma. And to be honest, that's why I'm so happy about Scottie, because clearly he didn't have that. And he was pretty much told from day one, you beat you. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure right now, if Scottie Barnes called his mom and said, Mom, I don't want to be a basketball player anymore. Cool. What do you want to be? And it's like, that's the wildest thing, because I'm pretty sure that Steph Curry can't say the same thing to his dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is the hallmark of well-adjusted child rearing and raising children who have confidence, is to not destroy their confidence by basically telling them their existence doesn't matter their whole lives. Because if you tell a child, if you do not become this or do not do this or not clean your room, then I will whatever, the child is basically getting a message over and over and over again that my existence is tied to this person's approval of my existence, which effectively makes them a second-class citizen in their own mind, which effectively means that when they do interact with other people, they will seek a similar dynamic with those other people, which means they'll have a similar dynamic with their teachers, possibly a similar dynamic with their partners, because it is the only way they even know how to exist. And so they might be one of those people that is just like, oh, my spouse wants me to spend more time at home, and therefore that's my worth, So it's very complicated how the brain works, but I do believe it is worth, understanding for people who are thinking about becoming parents, or people who think that they're great big siblings because they're always protecting their younger sister from going on dates. And it's just like, no, man, that's enmeshment. It's enmeshment. Not allowing people to be themselves. And I mean, it's a fine line between, allowing people to be themselves and keeping them safe and not allowing them to touch a hot stove or whatever. But protection and control never feel the same, ever.
Very well put. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, good chat as always. Yeah. I don't think I have a ton of friends that I could talk this way with, so it's really cool that you call in sometimes, man. Thanks a lot.
You could I DM'd you a couple days ago. We were talking about I asked about Drew and Wemby. Send me a whenever you want to have a convo like this, and I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I hope that even though it's not technically basketball related, that the 140 people who are still watching this at nearly 2 a.m. got something out of it too. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, peace,
All right,
man.
man.
Have a
Peace.
good one. Peace. All right. That's what happens when the Raptors lose. We get deep philosophical talks. Thanks a lot to Ghostface for calling in. Thank you to Coach Mo. Thank you to Lil John. Yeah, I'm not worried about this season. I'm just not. I consider it a launch pad for next season. I do have a lot of Penance stuff to do, so I'm going to go do that. And hopefully I can be done by tomorrow. But I've just been so undisciplined, just been like really, really kind of kicking the tire and being very, very slow about everything. But it's cool. I'm very tired. I've done a lot of work. I think I did the work of about 14 or 15 people, and people had a lot of fun. So I'm proud of myself, but also I'm just trying to do that thing that I'm trying to override something that is subconsciously very much me. And that subconscious me is to relax when it's over. And it's just like, no, motherfucker, it is not over. You need to get these videos out. You need to let people know. You need to send these thank you emails out, because the event is not done until it's done. It's like the job's not done until it's over. And it's just like right now the job is not over. And I'm just like slowly waiting. And it's just like, once you send these emails like 4 days after the event, they're kind of like, they feel late. So it's like the thank yous, and it just feels like, okay, so what did you do for 4 days that I was not important enough to thank, So it's not about feeling any pressure. It's just about trying to do the right thing. And, these people did make a huge contribution, and you do want to thank them properly, and you don't want to thank them 2.5 weeks later. Do you know what I mean? Like they're an afterthought. So I think it's just very important to wrap this up. So anyways, to the 136 of you that stuck with us for 3 hours and 3 minutes, an hour and a half of which easily had nothing to do with basketball, I appreciate you. But I hope you got something out of this, because I think this was honestly one of the better conversations that we've ever had on this channel. And I think it was remarkably honest, and I appreciate it. So thank you. Peace. Peace. Thank you. And hit subscribe. I don't think I asked you guys to hit subscribe anymore, but hit subscribe if you made it all the way to the end of this video. And also to these two super chats, thank you very much. Yeah. Good night, Rob and all. Good night, She-Wolf. Take care, guys.